Hey everybody, welcome to the Tuesday live stream. I've got another special one for you today. We've got Ryan back with us in the studio. Welcome to the studio, Ryan.
Thank you. It's nice to be back.
It's great to have you. Last time I realized we could just keep going, so I was like, let's just have Ryan back on. So for those of you who don't know Ryan is the founder of the Little Farm Association. It's a local food delivery operation that's has improved all of our lives. I know it's improved our lives. So, Ryan, for those joining us for the first time, can you introduce yourself and your business?
Sure. Well, the association is not quite a business, but I'm sure we'll get to that a little bit later. But yeah, I'm Ryan Goolsby. I've been here for about 10 years in the Missouri area. For the last 3 years, I've been connecting people with local farmers. And basically it's a once a week delivery service, bringing food from local farmers to local tables. Well, to the doorstep anyways. And yeah, that's what we do.
Nice. Yeah, just last weekend I joined you for the LFA dinner. It was delicious. Probably more than 5-course dinner, prepared by Chef Roland, and
it was lovely. It was a great night.
Yeah, it was. It was a beautiful place and beautifully decorated, and you had that. What's the guy who does the coffee in the back?
Carlo.
Carlo.
Yep, with Empire Coffee. He does a wonderful job.
Yeah, we had a great little barista stand in the back. It was beautiful, and it was supplied with all the farmers that you supplied.
As much as possible.
Yeah.
Not everything was local, but most of it was.
Yeah. What are some examples?
Well, the beef bourguignon was a local sirloin tip roast from CF Cattle Company. The chicken, free range, pasture raised, all the good stuff. Hens from Nature's Family Farm. A bunch of the produce was local. I don't know, a lot of it was local.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Let me just check here. We got, what is this? Use a key. I love getting errors in the middle of. Okay. Just tell me in the chat if we're live. It says we're live.
I see one person said hi.
Yeah. I mean, it says we're live. I see it. So I don't know why do they make me interrupt my stream? You know, we're live. This is what happens when you're live. I say this every time, but
something always happens.
Something always happens. Exactly. Like, you can't stop it. So I'll just accept it, right? Mm-hmm. So also at that dinner, and you did this last year, I remember, which was great to hear, but you announced some of the landmarks that your business has achieved. You want to share a couple with the audience?
Sure. I mean, growth is always nice. I know some of you are involved, and I'll just reiterate it. Let's see. We've sustained about 30% growth every year, so increasing memberships, increasing volumes of food. Since the beginning, we've moved approximately $400,000 worth of local foods to local tables. There's all kinds of impacts that has in the community. I mean, that's $400,000, which is being circulated more locally. And so, I mean, that's great. I don't know, what else? I mean, our membership is over 200 people now as members. We're running out of space in the delivery vehicles. So, I mean, it's growth. And growth can be painful sometimes, but it's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about. That's awesome. That's a huge growth rate. Do you feel satisfied with it? Does it feel too fast?
Well, each year the increase gets more, even though the rate stays the same.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Especially if it's just you and how many people are working with you. Have you hired any more people?
No, there's no one hired. There's me and Renee and I. You know, she's an English teacher. Should be mad at me right now. But yeah, we're two more than full-time people doing things. It's our primary occupation each week. And we have a lady named Lindsay who helps us with the deliveries. But she's not paid exactly. She actually receives food from the association and compensation for her time and effort. So she's not an employee, but she helps out.
Nice. That's the way to do it. Bartering.
If it works, bartering works great.
Yeah. It's not official bartering if the IRS is watching. Don't worry about that. So,
Well, we are on YouTube.
yeah, I know. They're probably watching. It's no big deal. We file our taxes. Everything's good. So, yeah, I remember. So I was mentioned earlier, I love talking about your business. I'm inspired by your business. I love it. But last time, we basically talked about that most of the time. And we didn't even get into a lot of the philosophical, spiritual stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of stuff that I know we want to talk about. And I realized I got to just follow Joe Rogan's advice, or his model, I guess, where you just talk for as long as you can. So we've got our coffee. We're ready to go for as long as we need to go, getting into all the little nitty-gritty of all the different spiritual and philosophical things that we've both explored, right?
I think we're going to run down some rabbit trails for sure.
The first thing, just as a good transition, because earlier you mentioned that LFA is not a business.
Mm-hmm.
It's a PMA, right?
Yep.
Am I right? Okay, so can you tell me your philosophy behind setting up your business as a PMA?
Well, there's a number of reasons why we did it the way we did it. And I mean, primarily, let's say philosophy. That's a complex thing. Practically speaking, a lot of the relationships which we foster are not like retailable. You can't get some of the products which are available directly from the farmer as a retail item. And like a regular store, you wouldn't be able to receive some of the items which are available if you work directly with the person making it. So like cottage good laws are one of the examples which a lot of people know about. But with me in the middle, it makes it more awkward because I'm not reselling. What I'm fostering as a private member association is a relationship between you and the person who's growing your food or providing your food in some fashion. And that relationship is not regulatable in the same way. So, for example, I can't resell raw milk, but you can have a relationship with the dairy and receive raw milk from them, and that's totally fine. So, on a practical level, raw milk is hard to handle with the laws that we have on the books right now. It's getting easier. I mean, there's some progress being made as far as like the legalities go.
So would you say it's more of like a legal decision than a philosophical decision?
Well, it's both. That's the practical aspect of it. But underneath that is the right we have to associate with who we want to associate with and exchange goods and services for exchanging goods and services. And really the state should have nothing to say in the matter between what we choose to do as private individuals. And this is all private contract law. It's not public law. And there's a big difference.
Very interesting. So you've done your research when you decided to do it this way.
I've done some reading, yes.
That's very cool. Yeah, so you're basically fostering a greater level of freedom for everyone involved by doing it this way.
And it's difficult because there's not really guidelines on how to do it this way. You're talking about taxes earlier. You mentioned taxes earlier. It took months to figure out how to actually file our sales tax and what taxes we're subject to and all the rest of the stuff. Because technically, the part of the juggling which I do in the middle, the farmer actually is the one who owes the sales tax because it's a relationship between you and the farmer. But from communication challenges, there's no way for me to effectively outsource that to all the farmers to actually pay the sales tax. And so how do I as an association file sales tax? There's not really a checkbox in the sign up for registering sales tax. So there was a lot of conversation and research trying to figure out even how to do that, or how to properly do that, I should say.
Well, God bless you, Ryan, because I feel like you are the great facilitator of this great project of bringing this local food to everyone in the area. Because without somebody tackling these problems, we would all just be faced with the current system, which seems to not favor small farms. It does not favor locally sourced. I mean, they don't do it. It doesn't happen that way. So it seems like you're basically forging a brand, like you just said, it's kind of a brand new method to do what really should be being done anyways. I feel like that's something that anybody who talks to you, and I'm sure you understand, like feels like food should be locally sourced. Food should be
Not as much as possible, but I will mention I do love avocados.
yeah. Avocados. Yeah, I get it. I get avocados. Look, I'm not saying it all should be, locally sourced. There should never be any supply chain or anything. I'm just saying, if there's someone in the local area producing something that you want, and they're doing it at a high level, in today's information age, we should be able to trade with them, and it should be efficient. It should, it's not traveling thousands of miles, so it should be less expensive. You know what I mean? There's so many things to it that make sense, right?
Well, yeah, there's so many ways which it makes sense. Costing less isn't one of them, though, just because of the economies of scale, and all the money mess, which is what our money is right now as a nation. But that's a whole other subject. But no, the food is grown better, no pesticides, cleaner. It's still alive when you get it. It's not shipped 2,000 miles. There's so many ways that the food itself is a superior product. The big businesses just, they're too big where they can't effectively source it. They need truckfuls of lettuce, not 20 lettuce in a week. I will say the modern food industry is a marvel of engineering. It's incredible what it does. Just think of what all the work it takes and all the logistics involved in keeping a grocery store stocked with all those things from all across the world. It's incredible. But too much of a good thing is a little bit too much still. And they can't improve the quality. And there's a lot of issues with the big food system too.
Yeah, I'm definitely struck by the idea that we have to make a decision to eat local because the grocery store is designed to just be this incredible convenience. And people just want to just go to the one grocery store, get everything they want, and leave and be good to go. And it does take, a little less convenience to eat better, to really get nutrients in your food. Like you said, we're kind of paying the price of too much of a good thing. I think it's great that, grocery stores exist, and I'm not saying we should abolish them, but we also need to think about where we're getting our food and if it's good for our bodies.
Yeah, there's a lot of unintended consequences with the abundance we have. And I think as a society, like glyphosate is something which people are becoming much more aware of, and it's like the spearhead for getting healthier food. It's been tied to so many different health issues, like just broad spectrum body. And getting local food, it's healthier. It's so much healthier in so many different ways.
Yeah, I'm struck by how sad it is that it was allowed to get to this point where there's so much glyphosate, there's so much pesticides and herbicides that now we have to create something totally different, as opposed to if they had, done it appropriately and been like, okay, we can't supply this to you without poisoning you, things would be very different. Don't you think?
That would definitely be a lot different. And I think as a people, things are improving massively. There are what I would call big farms which are doing things right now. And so those types of issues I think are fading, I guess would be a word to put it. But there's a long way to go. Those are few and far between. Yeah. Looks like there's quite a few chats over there.
Oh yeah, you want to go to the chat room?
Go to the chat. Let's see what people are saying.
All right, let's see. Yeah, all right, we're here for the live viewers. Any questions you guys have, we're going to read them out loud. Eleanor is in the chat. She has a few comments and questions. Ryan said it will be a business eventually, or rather, I don't know what that word is. Something in the future. Do you just mean more growth? It seems like a business to me. Oh, yeah, I think we're just talking about the structure, right?
For sure, and technically we do have a LLC, which we use for any like wholesale type arrangement. So when we sell products to a restaurant, for example, they have to be through a public entity, and it's a retail interaction. But that is technically a totally separate organization than the association. It just happens to do pretty much the same thing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I feel like philosophically you would say that what you're doing is a business. It's just, it's a membership organization, and
It definitely keeps me busy.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. What is a business? That is exactly what it is. So Eleanor says, when you talk about the relationship between the grower and the buyer, is that legally similar to CSAs? Do you want to tell the audience what a CSA is?
Well, a community-supported agriculture is kind of like an umbrella term. I don't know. The CSAs can be done in a lot of different ways. It's like a very broad term which can refer to a number of different models. You could call what we do a CSA because it's a community coming together to support agricultural producers. It's kind of like just an umbrella term. It refers to a lot of different things.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people have tried to do what you're doing. There's farmers markets, there are CSA delivery boxes. I've seen that where it's like a mix of whatever.
I think when people think CSA, they think of a mixed box of vegetables with very few options. You can't really trade things out, and you just basically get what you get. Whereas we're trying to go much more like the grocery, where you can pick and choose. I want this, I want that, I want this many of these, and it's a whole different process, custom packing every order. It takes more time than filling 50 boxes with the same variety of things.
Yeah, it's a big challenge, right? That is maybe the biggest challenge of your business.
There's a few.
Yeah,
it's hard to compare them.
Yeah. Well, we had a lot of philosophy to talk about, so we're not going to get bogged down in how to run the business. It's because I used to run a restaurant, so I understand, and we did local sourcing, so that was a whole thing in itself. And
man, if only you had a surface which was so convenient, you could go to one spot and say, I want all these things from all these different local producers, and it comes to you. How convenient would that be?
Wait, so how many restaurants do you work with?
Not many. We're kind of still in the testing phase, because it's a whole nother process which has to be implemented to effectively track the sales. It's like two whole separate books. You have to keep separate books for these two different organizations, and so the system is still coming into place to seriously do that. Yeah.
Well, I feel like that might be hopefully a great source for you guys in the near future to find restaurants, because I know there are restaurants that do that in Springfield and I'm sure in other towns in the area, right?
Oh yeah, no, there's plenty of people who are interested in it. I just want to be able to fulfill effectively.
Right. You just said that your delivery truck's getting full, right?
It is. Yeah, we're going to need a bigger vehicle soon.
Maybe we're going to have to manifest you a person.
At least, well, it's equipment more than person.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we just need a bigger vehicle.
Oh, okay. All right.
So we need to be specific in the manifestation, a later than 2018 Ford Transit high top, preferably with an extended body.
All right. Well, we got the whole chat. We can just everybody can pray for it. It'll show up next week. All right. No problem. All right. Let's see what other chats we've got. Renee is here. She says, "Hello, aho, Ryan. Private citizens should be able to take care of our own well-being." Eleanor says, Here, Renee. Haven't thought of it that way. That's one of the main reasons so many people have turned to homesteading.
Yeah, we actually often come in contact with people who are technically food refugees. Most recently was a family who had just moved here from Ohio, where milk laws are not becoming better. And there's been multiple raids shutting down dairies, and a lot of nonsense happening in Ohio as far as milk goes.
Wow.
And so they had to flee in order to get the food they desire.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, we think we think everything's hunky-dory in our country, right? But there's literal refugees running so that they can live their life the way that they really feel that they should be living it. I know I couldn't go without our raw milk. I mean, it's so good. It would be so sad to not have it.
That coffee, which we just had,
Yeah.
50% cream, that's the way to do it. With maple syrup.
Sure is, especially at 7:30 at night. All right, well, let's see if we can get into some more philosophy. So, last time you gave me the Buckminster Fuller quote, "You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete." How has that quote shaped your approach to business and to life, or to life?
Well, I have a tendency I've recognized, which I have a hard time not reinventing the wheel. I have to contain myself, otherwise I'd try to reinvent everything. But improving something, let's see how to put it. First principles, it's like going back to first principles, seeing how a thing should be done, not how a thing has been done. There's definitely a lot of wisdom in recognizing why systems are the way they are and seeing the history of it. There's wisdom there, but not assuming that that is the way it has to be. I don't see there's any unsurmountable problems to stop local food from existing. With the technology we have right now, particularly, it's all just about communicating. This person has that person wants this. And we didn't used to have the technology to do that. Not really. Not on a small scale. So there's solutions to all kinds of problems, and I just think we need to look at things with fresh eyes from first principles, and that's kind of how that saying informs my perspective.
It makes me think of, and I know you're a student of Zen Buddhism, right? Beginner's mind, right? And even Jesus said, be like children, be like babies, and I feel like I try to do that in my work also, just always coming at it with a fresh view. It's tough to balance, right? Planning things out and thinking ahead, but then also being in the moment with a clean slate, facing whatever difficulty or challenge or business that you're working on.
Being open to what presents itself, not being stuck in what the established pattern. Not being used to the setting, and just looking at things fresh. It's great perspective.
Yeah, I feel like this is something that I try to tell people to do on the way of service. Like, look at your life and figure out what it is you really want to do, and you think about it from like a blank slate. Think of, because I kind of feel like that's what you did when you took the leap of faith to start this business. You were like, I'm going to start a business this way, the way that I think is right. And like you said, you're doing it in a way, you're forging your own path. You're figuring out how to structure it in order to do it the way that you see it as correct or as ideal, right?
That's the goal. For sure. And then you have to balance that with the practicality of what is and how to actually deal with it in the moment.
Right.
But I don't know, I didn't exactly, I moved to Missouri with the intention of developing this, but at the time I didn't know precisely the details of how it would come together. And it's definitely been a journey learning how to organize this in a way that works.
Yeah, and I feel like, the best thing is you really can go back and forth, You can be in that beginner's mind state, but have your plan, ready to look at. It's not like it disappears just because you're entering that Zen state. I feel like one way, for those of you listening who want to be in that state, I know I want to be in that state. I think it really does take rest and time away from the thing that you're working on. And if you can't get a lot of time, maybe meditation, clearing your mind of the thing so that then you can come back with fresh eyes. What do you think about that, Ryan? All right, let's see. I didn't make it to the end of the chat, so let's see what chats we've got. All right. Eleanor says, but man, doing it all yourself is a huge sacrifice. Glad you wrote that. Makes me appreciate LFA more thinking of it that way. Glad you wrote that. Maybe always she's talking about Renee's comment about doing things, doing things ourselves. Yeah, I mean, my wife and I, Eleanor, have talked about this a lot, how there's so many homesteaders out here just busting their ass to do it all themselves. And it's because the system seems so broken that people are like, oh, I just have to do everything myself. But, I'm like so thankful for what you're doing because, like you said, you're trying to make it convenient. You're like trying to bring it to the level that like even like Amazon. I mean, you basically deliver like Amazon.
That's Amazon for local food.
Yeah. So, I mean, that is, in the thumbnail and in the title of this video, it was about building and and building instead of wishing. Right? We're all wishing that things will be better, things were different. I even said that. I'm like, I wish big ag didn't spray everything with chemicals. But instead of wishing, we should build. Let's build the thing that represents what we really think is an ideal, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think keep wishing too. I mean, don't stop wishing, but also act.
Right. We're going to get into that. But yeah, that's thank you for saying that because I'm totally in favor of wishing. I mean, wishing as in being in touch with God, praying about it, believing that your mind and your emotions affect reality because they do. Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying is there's a lot of people who think that that's all they have to do. Yeah. Right?
No, that's not likely going to work.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. That's how I feel, anyways. But I've let's see. I've never felt comfortable just sitting back and waiting, but at the same time, that's kind of the process, because not just sitting back and waiting, but being patient for things to come. Manifestation isn't now it's there, at least not yet. But I don't know, I've found that anything which I have truly intended to create and to bring into my life, eventually it does come. And often in ways I don't expect. Didn't see coming.
Yeah, in ways that, if you didn't have help from God, it wouldn't have happened, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I see evidence for that all the time. But even like just the stereotypical person who's wishing for $1 million, what are they wishing for it for? So they can sit and be lazy. And so they're sitting and being lazy.
Right.
So they got what they're wishing for. Right. They just don't have the means in the same way. Yeah.
I mean, every wish is different, right? It all has a different energy to it. And so if you're wishing for $1 million, in an ideal world, money represents value. And so in order to get $1 million, you have to give $1 million worth of value. Mm-hmm. Versus, like you said, if you want to just be lazy and sit on the couch, that's all you need is a couch and maybe a TV. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. And only a few bucks to buy the couch from like a thrift store.
Right. And then maybe a room to put it in. But I mean, so one thing that strikes me here is like finding the middle path, right? Because there's a lot of people at the other end of the spectrum who, maybe like the homesteaders that we were just talking about, people who are just working so hard to make something happen and they're not kind of letting it happen in a natural flow. So they're on the other side, and then the other side is not taking action. So I think it's, as usual, it's the middle path that is the real answer to how to get what you want. You have to take action, but don't exhaust yourself. Don't overdo it. Don't do it to the exclusion of other things in your life, right?
Yeah. Now, if you focus on something too hard, it's my experience that things will break. It doesn't work out the best. Things will break. I have literally seen a window shatter next to somebody who was in it. It was bizarre observing things break around people and in the energy as they travel through life. I've met some people who are so intense in their pursuits that everything around them breaks. They get into accidents, they break stuff. It's I don't know, some level of karma there for sure. But I don't know, I've observed that in a couple of people for sure. They're trying to force what their desires are, their pursuits. They're trying to manifest that with such intensity that things break, rather than pursuing it and moving towards it, I don't know, more calmly and less intensely.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I definitely feel like, we all have a feel for someone's centeredness, right? So, yeah, there's definitely people where, it's like their car is always breaking down, or they're just not able to get the thing done because they're trying and trying and trying. And it's almost like God is saying, hey, take a break, back off of that thing, let the universe do some work for you, right?
Chill just a little bit.
Just chill a little bit. So many people don't have chill. It's kind of crazy. All right, let's see. Timothy's here. He says, hi.
Hello, Timothy.
Renee says, right, Eleanor? As a two-person crew, it can be quite a lot to manage sometimes. It's all very satisfying as a life purpose. And then Renee says, I do love that quote. She's probably talking about the Buckminster Fuller quote.
Yep, likely.
Eleanor says, she's, she's, all right. Marco says, hi. Hi, Marco. Welcome to the stream.
Welcome back.
So far we've got Marco, Tim, Renee, and Eleanor. Welcome to the stream, everybody. Eleanor says, there's an insane amount of food that doesn't make it to the table from our garden. I love that LFA finds a solution to that.
Well, we're working towards a solution, that's for sure. I will say that there's still a remarkable amount of waste, or underutilization, I should say, for products which are grown locally. It's much less than commercial operations, but when tomatoes are growing, there's a lot of tomatoes growing, and it's hard to utilize them because everybody loves to grow tomatoes. So the early tomatoes are easy to sell. Then there's so many tomatoes that you can't get rid of them quick enough, and then they're just rotting on the vine. And then the late tomatoes, it's again nice, but there in the middle there's too much abundance, and it's hard to utilize. The solution we'd like to build towards is to, at the peak seasons, have some people make like pasta sauce or other tomato products, and so when there's a glut of a product on the market, being able to find a way to preserve it for later in the year. And that's always the challenge with produce, because there's a lot when there's produce.
Yeah, I'd imagine. I was going to ask you about preserving, so that's a really good idea. I know that one of the ideas I've had for improving the homesteading experience for everyone is to have people kind of talk about what they're going to grow, right? So, like you said, so many people love growing tomatoes, and we've grown a lot of cherry tomatoes, and basically we get a lot of volunteers at this point.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I mean, is there any discussion of that? And I feel like price can be a signal, hopefully, to people to what they should be growing, that kind of thing.
For sure. I mean, anybody who has garden space, I'd say grow some tomatoes. Then you don't need to buy them, at least not in the middle. I mean, in a way that's increasing the abundance, but who's ever complained about too much abundance? I don't know. For those who can't garden, let's see. I don't know. That's what we're here for.
Yeah. Well, so are you saying that there is communication to?
Yeah, we're moving in that direction, but it's kind of, I don't know. It's still a plan coming into focus for sure.
You got a lot on your plate. Telling people what to grow each year is probably.
Well, and plus I don't want to tell them what to grow each year. I mean, I don't tell the producers what to charge for their products. Everyone says what they are wanting for it. I don't want to tell them what to grow because I can guide them in like data, this is how much of what has sold when, but I don't want to say grow this, grow that, because in some sense then I become responsible if that goes south. When I first moved here, I got involved with other businesses which were trying to do similar things, and multiples of them I saw go down because they were trying to do that. You grow this, you grow that. Something fell through, the buyer didn't show up, the crop failed, and one or both of them, it ended up with the businesses dissolving because they couldn't maintain relationship. So I don't want to tell people anything or what to do. I want to let them be able to see the data and make an informed decision on what to grow. And I would definitely encourage people to grow for as late or as early in the season as they possibly can, because that's where the sweet spot is. Where if you're the first to market, then you have the whole market. You can sell your tomatoes when no one else has them. Whether it offsets your grow lights in February or not, I'm not sure. But yeah, I don't want to do that. I am facilitating contracts between producers and consumers. For example, one of our producers makes sauerkraut and kimchi and those types of fermented products. And I'm connecting them with another producer which grows the cabbages and the onions and all that kind of stuff. But as far as it goes, it's a relationship between them directly and not really through us, or not as part of the association. So we're facilitating that, but those are relationships between them directly. We're transporting the cabbages, though.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, it actually makes me think of another topic that I wanted to discuss with you, because, again, in the food world, there's so many moving parts. I ran a restaurant for 4 years, so I understand that as well. And sometimes all we can do is go with the flow, right? The Taoist principle of Wu Wei, achieving through not forcing, and also kind of letting God take care of it. I feel like there's so many farmers out there with so many different personalities deciding what they want to do. In the ideal world, they would turn to you and ask you for the data, but most of them are probably not going to do that. So you have to.
Most of them also want to be. They say, "What do you want us to grow?" And so I can guide them, but they, in a way, are asking to be told what to do.
Oh, so there are some.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh, cool. Has that? I guess how many years have you been doing? It's only been
3 years.
3. So, has that changed the way that the products come in and which products are available?
I don't know. We're still
Has
early
it improved
yet.
it? Hard to tell.
It's hard to tell. It's hard to measure that one.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, what about Wu Wei? How did you stop forcing and start flowing with your business, or did you always feel that way? Talk about Wu Wei.
I've to a large portion of my life, I've kind of just operated this way. It was in my teenage years, which are when I did any amount of studying of Zen or Buddhism or many of the other philosophies, like only up into my early 20s, as far as like actual research goes. The rest of my experience has just been experience. But for pretty much as long as I can remember, I've just been a little bit chill. And so it's easier just with a personality like mine to not, to get too caught up in forcing things and accepting things as they are, taking a practical approach to the events that happen in my life. It's just like a natural fit for my psyche, almost to the point where I'm worried that I'm not reacting enough. I'm worried about not contributing to it more. I don't know. I've had some experiences which brought this perspective very naturally to my being.
What experiences?
Well, let's see. I guess it's like, I would say visions would be a good way to put it, or spiritual experiences, like just undeniable spiritual experiences which have brought certain perspectives and wisdom in my life. So that's what I would mean, I guess.
Do Do you want to tell a story, or is it too personal? What do you think?
Maybe not this time.
Okay. Okay. Because I feel like my when I imagine your situation, right? You're dealing with so many different people, so many different moving parts, so many challenges all at once, but you're still doing it, right? And I feel like if you didn't let God and the universe help you and have that wu wei to it, you might go crazy, right?
For sure, I could get stuck in the details of this business. I could get stuck in there pretty easy. But as far as like the metaphor of Wu Wei, thinking of it as water, I mean, really, it's like information flow from the farmers, what they're growing, how much they have, what the prices are, and it's a flow of information going to, its destination. Water flows down a hill, and if you just let it, it'll flow to where it goes. You can develop channels to more efficiently get it there, but water's going to get there at some point. And so I guess as far as it goes, I try to improve, I mean, in the Kaizen type of way, just the small steps, small increasing of efficiency, small improvements of process, trying to facilitate this information flow from farmers to the buyers and back again. And just trying to facilitate that in just a small incrementally improving way. So that's just kind of my methodology of that, I suppose, and the Wu Wei way of thinking.
Yeah, I had never thought of Wu Wei as water, although it's kind of obvious. I actually have a quote from the Tao Te Ching that I was going to ask you about. I thought I put it on here. Where is it?
I think I miss.
Oh, I think it's
I
on
flipped them out. I flipped those two concepts. Wu Wei, you hadn't thought of it. It was water. It was the other one you're looking
there
at,
it
which
is.
was talking about water.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it's almost the same concept, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's also the same.
Here's the quote: "The supreme good is like water, which nourishes all things without trying to. It is content with the low places that people disdain. Thus, it is like the Tao." What do you think about that quote?
I think it fits perfectly with what we were just talking about.
What about your business? Because you are, you're like the Amazon delivery driver and the CEO of the company, right?
Yeah. I'm eager to let's see how to put it. I'm eager to step out of the roles which I have been moving in. I'm eager for the growth to be sufficient where I'm able to get more people involved and more equipment and all of that. And in the meantime, kind of have to deal with what we have and operate it as we do. So, as a founder, it's not the most glamorous job doing deliveries, but I bet almost every founder in the very early days of the company did the equivalent. I mean, for a technology company, they were the ones going line by line and coding things. I guess I don't know specifically of Jeff Bezos in the beginning of Amazon, but I know they all the founders were in the nitty gritty small stuff at the beginning, unless they have like corporate sponsors, I suppose.
Yeah, that was some advice I got before I started any businesses was take whatever you're doing as far as you can by yourself. And once you've done that, it'll naturally attract the right people to start helping you go beyond that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because there's definitely capital challenges in this. Because as we grow, we need more equipment. And without additional funding, it impairs the growth trajectory. For example, I can't afford my current car and the van, but I can afford one or the other. But it's a difficult transition to get between the two. So it's a little bit awkward without a chunk of capital to be able to do some of these things. Buying a walk-in refrigerator, anything like that. There's so many different capital expenses in growth that that it's difficult to pay for with the regular cash flow. And I invested most of my money in the farm, and I don't have a whole lot left to invest in big capital expenditures in growth. So,
Are you planning on raising capital in the near future, or?
yes,
Oh, interesting. Investing opportunity.
potentially. Yes.
Cool. Cool. Well, it'll probably be easier this time because now you have a running business.
Oh, I'm sure we've learned a lot of the mistakes. Like if someone came to me with $500,000 to say, "Hey, go start this," or $1 million to go, "Hey, start this," I'm sure I would have learned a lot of lessons fast, but there would have been a lot of ways too.
Right. Right. Yeah. And like you said, I feel like there's a lot to be learned in the, the low places that people disdain. Going into that nitty gritty, now you can pass the torch to somebody else who's doing it, and you can tell them exactly how you want it done, as opposed to having somebody else do it right from the get-go, and there's all this waste, and as we know in the food industry, waste is killer. Yeah. All right, let's see if we can get through some more chats. All right, Eleanor says, it's not that simple on the back end. It's not that you guys make use of everyone's surplus, but it seems to be going in that direction. Connecting neighbors so that everyone can share and trade easily.
That's the intention.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's, I don't know of any other way to do it besides what you're doing.
Yeah, and it hasn't been that long that we've had the technology to do this. Growing up in the era of computers, I feel blessed to have this amazing power of communication that computers bring. And mine is actually the first generation, which was growing up with it. Really, I'm early millennial. I can't imagine how hard it is for the rising generations now, having had all this all the time.
Yeah, the amount of manpower that it would take without computers to do what you're doing. Can't even imagine.
Well, look up some archive photos of like Sears, in the heyday of Sears, and look at their office. It is hundreds of people at desks handling letters and handling paper receipts. It's a whole building of these people moving these things around. That's crazy. And most of that, and granted, I'm not like Sears and don't have the volume for sure. But all of that is just automatic. And all of that communication has been condensed down into a really pretty optimized flow.
Very cool. Yeah, I love technology too. I think it enables a lot of these great new business models that can hopefully, as we said earlier, replace the old model that's not working for people. Eleanor says, Hi, Marco. Hi, Marco. Tim says, very interesting about things breaking. I've witnessed this happening.
It's bizarre when you notice it.
Yeah, the synchronicity is now I'm going to start seeing it. And that is a feeling that I get when I think of somebody who's really trying to make things happen. It has this breaking energy to it. Not even that I've seen people breaking things, but more that they're just running into a wall and they're like breaking
they're trying to break through that wall.
Right, they're like breaking their emotions, or they're like breaking their relationships, or
something's got to give.
Yeah.
And until something does, and it may not be what it's intended to break.
Yeah. I'm gonna be watching for that. Eleanor says, what was that big number mentioned at the LFA dinner? The one about how much money went back to producers in the last year.
400,000. Well, in the past year was 100, and at the moment it's about $160,000. We're expecting by the end of the year to have like 175 or something $1,000 coming back to the local producers. But since we started this 3 years ago, it's coming up on $400,000.
Very nice. Like we shouted out, it's almost $500,000.
Exactly.
Right? Timothy says, more people than not can grow some garden.
And it's my personal thought, unless there is a real reason why you can't, grow something. If it's a cactus, grow a cactus. And just grow, I don't know, promote life in some fashion like that. And it's so healthy for the psyche.
Yeah, there definitely is something magical about growing food. We've done it. And I remember the very first time my mom fed me a garden-grown green bean. Did I ever tell you about this?
Mm-mm.
It was literally the first time I'd ever eaten something fresh out of the garden. And, she just sauteed these green beans with a little bit of butter and maybe some salt and pepper. And
Doesn't take much.
I just remembered it was like the best thing I've ever tasted. And that moment has replayed many times in my mind. It replayed before I started a restaurant. I invested a ton of money and time and life spirit into running a restaurant based on this whole idea that if I just brought people locally sourced organic food, it would change their lives. And I mean, I hope that I changed some lives, and I know that I think that you're also changing lives as well. But there's something about that. So I want to plug my favorite method of gardening for people who are skeptical. It's called the stun method, okay?
Yep, that's my favorite too.
That's sudden, total, utter neglect. So don't think that gardening has to be all this work. It can be a lot of work if you get really attached to every plant.
It can be as much work as you want to put into it.
Yeah, it can be an infinite amount of work. And believe me, I know plenty of people who are doing that. But the stun method, I did it the first year that we moved here, and I got a ton of cucumbers and a ton of zucchinis, and it was pretty cool. And it took no work. I mean, you don't have to do anything. You can do, the other side of gardening is
prepare for it. You prepare the beds. You set the scene. You plant the seeds, and you walk away.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, you can do work on it, or you can do no work on it, or you can do a little bit of work. I think a little bit of work goes a long way.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's diminishing returns, or basically maybe you'll get an extra plant if you weed every day, but it might not be worth it. So.
Well, yeah, at that point you're talking about just developing systems into growing lots and lots and lots. Personally, my own gardening habits, I'm not interested in growing vegetables. It's not what I want to do when I grow things. I like permaculture systems where you plant something once and it grows, and the things which you plant around it benefit each other, and you just develop a symbiotic ecosystem. It's basically the intention of permaculture. And it also happens to be very compatible with the stun method, which is about as much time as I have. I can prepare and set a scene, I can plant the plant, and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah, the whole dynamic of co-planting, I think that's the word for it, right? Mm-hmm. And you were talking about in the last stream the micro, the network, the nutrient network that's in healthy living soil as opposed to industrial soil that's just plowed and replaced over and over. It's fascinating to see which plants work together, which plants don't like each other. All this. As you get into gardening, you see this, and it's really cool, especially over the long run.
Well, as is applicable to life in general, it's all about the relationships. Everything has a relationship to each other and how things interact. And some things relate more easily than others, and some things repel as their relationship.
Right. Yeah, everything is about relationships. That's one of the big things we talk about on Way of Service, for sure. Eleanor says, I've noticed the breaking not around the same people, but for myself on bad days. Like a message, like it's a message that day I have to soften and let go.
No, when I get angry, I do it well, and I scare myself sometimes. But luckily it doesn't happen very often.
Ooh, I've never seen you angry.
Oh, you don't want to see me angry.
Oh, that's scary. Shit. I gotta take a break. I gotta get out of the studio for a minute. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So we hit on Zen. We hit on Wu Wei. We have gotten into the philosophy. We can get even deeper, though, because some of our audience may not realize that you drive 500 miles every week to fulfill your mission. That's a lot of miles and a lot of time. So what have you been listening to on your 500 miles of driving?
Well, I listen to all kinds of stuff. I'm trying to reduce the amount of modern events and political thought. I think that there's a use and a benefit to being informed about things which happen, but I'm trying to contain the political influence in my life. It's easy to get thrown out of whack when consuming news and consuming all the stories of the day. So that being said, as my admission, if I listen to too much of that, but past that, I listen to a lot of podcasts, a lot of interviews. Topics seem to revolve around money. I guess the podcast I would plug would be the What is Money show. They've been going for a long time, and I don't know that he's ever really answered the question of what is money. There's all kinds of things what money is, but it's hard to say. But it's a good podcast, and so I listen to that. A lot of history. So I'd say that The Creature of Jekyll Island was a good one. It's a historical thing, which also happens to be a lot of how our modern monetary system was created or adjusted to its current form. It's a terrifying book, Creature from Jekyll Island.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of that book. I mean, isn't it basically the story of the origin story of the Federal Reserve?
Yep.
Yeah, right. And it was, they came up with it on Jekyll Island, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, at a private retreat of a uber millionaire, or uber wealthy banker, hosted the rest of the banks, basically, and colluded to implement the system which we have right now. So I listen to history. I listen to it's probably the main things I listen to, honestly. At least while driving.
So tell me more about the What is Money podcast. Like, what's an idea that you've heard recently, or an episode that stuck with you?
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the challenges with listening to so much audio is it's hard to actually internalize all the information. I'm also trying to move away from basically listening to audio through the entire drive and breaking it up with other things, because that's just so much information which flows in, and I have a hard time actually retaining it. I get a lot of context, but not a lot of detail, or there's rather too much detail for me to remember. Some of the notable things which he's talked about, well, there's a lot of law stuff, a lot of law interaction. I mean, he's a big Bitcoin guy, so he talks a lot about Bitcoin, and the whole channel is basically a Bitcoin advocacy, in that it's a much more perfected form of money. It may not be perfect, but it's a lot closer to what we had before. Compare a lot between the gold standard or commodity-backed economies versus currencies, petrodollar, compared to all of the just money system stuff. It's an extensive rabbit hole to go down to, but I have a hard time pulling out details to share.
Yeah, I'm curious. Is he talking about how Bitcoin is affecting things, or is he talking about ways to use Bitcoin, or is he giving arguments?
It's broad. It's broad conversations. It goes all over the place. He's got all kinds of different guest speakers and broad. I mean, he talks about spirituality and money. He talks to biologists. He talks to all kinds of people. I mean, it's been going for quite a few years.
Spirituality and money. Let's get into that. What do you mean by that? What have you heard, or what do you think?
Well, I think my understanding of money, I guess first I'll differentiate. There's a big difference between currency and money. Currency is something which has been instituted by the national powers or power structures, and it's loosely correlated to the value of things, but it's manipulated in so many different ways. But money, as a more pure concept, is really more of an exchanging of energies between people. It can take the path of like barter. There's an exchange of money there, but it's not currency money. It's a different, like just more of an energetic form of money.
So would you say what you're talking about is value, or
Yeah.
or is money different, separate from value?
I think they're a lot closer than money and currency.
Okay, because I have
But value is a perspective. Like you value a thing differently than I value a thing.
mm-hmm.
But money is the thing which exchanges that. Or exchanges my desire for a thing. I mean, using the barter as an example, I have something which you want, you give me something that I want, and we trade. And there's a relative value with the two things, and money is the energy that is exchanged where we both win.
Cool. So you're kind of saying that money is like an energy that's exchanged, and then the currency ideally would like carry that energy.
Yeah.
But we know. I mean, you and I both know. I've studied the messed up monetary system. Also, the current currency doesn't do a good job of transferring that value or that money that you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing that it still works. I mean, it's amazing that it still works. I forget the exact numbers, but when I was born, what a dollar equated to in value, it was about 20 times more than what a dollar equates to now. So the dollar as a store of value is a 20th of what it used to be. It's siphoned off with this currency thing. So as a measurement of value, it means something very different now than when I was born.
Yeah, it's interesting to think of it as a spiritual, difference as far as like, true money would be something that we can work towards as an ideal, as opposed to the current currency, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I agree with you, and that's kind of one of the things that's pulled me away from politics and also studying the monetary system and being upset about it, because there's so many things that it's easy to be upset about.
Oh, so many.
And yet life goes on. People's lives continue. Great things are happening. Ryan's business is growing. People are eating more organic food. People are becoming more aware of spiritual topics. So there's basically there's reasons to be optimistic, and then there's reasons to be pessimistic. But when you look at the reasons to be pessimistic, if you actually examine what's happening, like, yeah, the U.S. dollar is messed up and it loses a ton of value in inflation every year, and we're taxed at an incredible rate, and that rate is way higher than you think, because it doesn't. You probably, if you're only thinking about income tax, but then there's payroll tax, which you don't even know what your employer pays, and then there's sales tax, and then there's property tax, and it's just tax, and then inflation. And so all these things you would think would break the backs of the people, and yet the people are resilient. That's been something that I've kind of decided to think of, and that's what maybe that's what I'm focusing with this work. I want to show people that they can be resilient, that God's energy is behind them, especially when they devote themselves to improving the world in the way of service.
No, I mean, if you produce value to the people around you, you'll never run out of money. I mean, the source of money is in our own actions and in our own relationships with each other. And so if we are a positive influence in everything we do, then that's just golden.
And I like that you said money, because you might run out of currency.
Oh, for sure.
You might run out of currency, but you're not going to run out of money. Yeah, that's inspiring too, and I think, those of us who live out in this rural area, we're more integrated in that, where people are doing barter. You're paying some people in food, some people exchange labor. There's a lot of ways to exchange money without exchanging currency, and a lot of people are doing that.
Mm-hmm. I think it is pretty prevalent out here. But it's been a long time since I've lived in a city. So, in fact, I've avoided living in a city as much as I can for all my life. I'm not sure how different it is, but I suspect that they are also exchanging. You can be positive anywhere you live, and I don't know. There's all kinds of barter which goes on.
Yeah, and then, like every environment adapts, right? So in the city, they're probably using currency more, but they have more available currency, and maybe it works better for them. You know, in a lot of ways, if you look at some of the systems of our society, they are built for people living in cities, right?
Well, definitely we have a societal trend to make cities bigger and people moving into cities because it's expensive to live out in the country. Everything is more expensive. I mean, just living is more expensive, I should say. You can't walk to the grocery store. So, in town, paying rent may be higher, but you're not paying for the, the repairs to the building. So I don't know. It's very different worlds. I mean, I'm not very familiar with the city life anymore.
Yeah, everything's a trade-off. I think, ideally in the future, we would figure out how to integrate city life and rural life in a better way. It feels like sometimes they're at odds with each other, and it doesn't have to be that way, I don't think.
No, I don't think so. I could not stand living in the city. Too much noise.
Did you ever live in the city?
I mean, I lived in the Seattle area. It was in a green space generally. I found the greenest space I could where there was spread out people a little bit, and it wasn't it wasn't a city all around me, but there was a city all around me.
How long were you there?
Oh,
Because I have a hard time picturing you in the city. I'll be honest.
well, I don't blame you. Off and on. Let's see. I lived in the Seattle area for a total of 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
In 2 different locations. But now I'd spend my my non-job time going to the state parks and just being out in the woods. That's how I got away. I didn't like living in the city.
So the main thing you learned was that you didn't want to live there?
Oh, I knew that already.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were just there for work, or what were you there for?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
No, the first house I bought was in the Seattle area. And then once you buy a piece of real estate, you're kind of anchored there, and so you can't move. So we did that adventure.
Right. Yet another source of taxes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once you buy a property, it's a bad move to sell it within the next 5 years, I think is the math or something.
Yeah, it was a pretty tragic story with an epic finish because it ended up the whole area, because it was a green space, there was less people living there because it was right on the edge of a flood zone, and so they rezoned the area so I actually couldn't sell. They redid the zoning in a way where I actually would have a really hard time selling it in any kind of traditional sense. But eventually, the state ended up buying the property for, par. I didn't make any money on that. I didn't lose much money, but I didn't make any money or currency.
Well, I'm glad you got out because now you get to be here with us.
Yep.
All right, let's see what's in the chat. We got Timothy says, exudates in soil from a diversity of plants support soil and plant health. Yeah.
Yeah, those relationships, it's the give and take of the soil world.
What is an exudate? You know what that is?
It is a thing. Usually, I think it's a liquid exclusively, which the plant exudes into the soil, and the biology feeds it or trades for it, depending on it. A lot of the exudates of plants come in the form of sugars. Through photosynthesis and whatnot, the plant will transform chemicals into different sugar forms and, in essence, feed subsoil biota for exchange of other nutrients.
So are the plants exchanging money?
Yes.
Because you make it sound like they're like choosing to trade.
Well, the mycorrhizal fungi is a network of exchange. It actually carries nutrients through the soil from one place to another. It's really kind of fascinating.
Yeah, I know we talked about that last time, and it's fascinating, especially because most food is not grown that way, right?
No, most food is grown in a growing medium, which is sterile, and there's no life there. And the plants eat what is given to them, and that's about it.
Yeah, check out our last interview for more on that. Also, hit that like and subscribe button if you guys are enjoying this. If you've made it for the whole first hour, you gotta like and subscribe, guys.
Oh yeah.
And also,
who doesn't like a pair of guys just rambling?
Yeah, and also, tell everybody your website so they can sign up for food or at least follow your work and maybe do it. We can, if you're not in the area, maybe you can figure out how to do what Ryan's doing if you're inspired to do it.
I have a system which you could mimic if you're interested. littlefarmpma.org would be the website you go to.
Cool. All right, let's see what's in the chat, and then we'll see what we can keep doing on the questions. We're gonna just keep going until you guys tell us to stop or until we pass out. That was my idea.
We had some coffee though.
Yeah, we had coffee, so we're gonna be up as late as we can be. Susan says hello. Welcome to the stream, Susan.
Hello, Susan.
Hope you're feeling better. Renee says, I like the idea that money is tied to energy. Yeah, me too. I really feel like, because there's so many negative beliefs about money that people have, and it really shouldn't be that way. People want to exchange value. It's a natural thing to exchange value. I've made this argument. I don't know if I've actually put it on the channel yet, but the idea is that if you don't accept an exchange of energy or money or value, whatever you want to call it, one person is going to feel imbalanced and it's just not sustainable. Whereas a system of money allows all of these relationships to continue in a comfortable way that's equitable, and I think it does have something to do with the energy that's being exchanged. There's not an imbalance, there's not a stagnation of the energy. So I agree with you, Renee. I feel like it makes a lot of sense, and a lot of manifestor people, people talk about manifesting money, talk about thinking of money as energy. I agree with that idea. Do you have a comment on
that? No, that's about right.
Renee says, tied to positive and negative energy, the idea that we can behave in a good way and exchange value in those good ways is optimistic. I like to think that most people could be capable of that. Though sadly, societies have also proven that people are corrupted by power and currency, and that bad work can be done as a result also.
Well, I think, the thoughts that come to mind is how for so much of our history there has been a scarcity mentality. People starving, people not having enough, people struggling to get by. And so in a more survivalist mentality, you try to just take the money. You get what you need. I think that's counterproductive to have that mentality. The way I like to think of exchanging energy is, I'm producing value and I'm trading it with you for the value you produce, and it trades and it actually grows, rather than a consumptive scarcity mentality where there's only so much and so I need to get as much as I can. And I know for a lot of the accepted human history, there's been a lot more of the selfishness rather than the generosity. So I think that there's, there's large cultural swaths which have that more as a mentality rather than the positive service mentality.
Yeah, this is tied to a lot of cool ideas that I've been thinking about and talking about, like the Yuga cycle, the ages, the idea that we're living in a more enlightened age than was in the last 2,000 or 3,000 years. Because there was something earlier that made me think of this. You said, it's like we don't live in this time where you can just manifest what you want right away. But we actually do for certain things.
Comparatively to how it has been, it is.
Right, and it's like my understanding of the way that consciousness evolution occurs is that, first we start with the basics of, it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Right now we can snap our fingers and DoorDash will deliver something, or Amazon will deliver something, or I think there's grocery delivery services like you, right? Yep. Whatever it is that you might think you need, you can basically get it at the snap of a finger. But if you want to have $1 million, or you want to have a functional business, or, I don't know, you want to have a great relationship. These are things that you can't snap your fingers and create. But as we consciously evolve more and more, I think that might actually be possible. And I feel like that's the period, that's the time that we're living in. We're living in this transitionary time where we're moving from this scarcity mindset time that you mentioned earlier into this, again, it's just a more and more evolving upward and experiencing more and more abilities to create and manifest the things that we want more quickly, which also allows us to focus on higher minded things, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And that's why I have brought the way of service into the consciousness, because I believe that that is where consciousness will head once we realize that we can have any of these other things that we've desired instantaneously. We're going to realize that we want to spend more time helping people, improving our relationships and improving the world in that way.
I'm excited to see what will happen when humans no longer need to struggle to survive and instead have time and energy to put into their own development. It's a very different mindset, and it takes a lot of personal responsibility and ownership of yourself to be able to, to be able to keep yourself from succumbing to abundance. It'll take a lot more personal effort to improve yourself. Now that we have the material needs managed, we can go on Amazon and order something from wherever and whatever and have it brought to us. And now the work is ourselves and trying to improve ourselves, I think, is kind of the direction we're going as a society.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because I feel like God basically allows people to do either one. Like, if you want, you can really get into the abundance that we existed now. If you want to get rich and make your life about material comfort or hedonistic pleasure, plenty of people are doing that.
And they're doing it better than they ever have before.
Right, exactly. But all the spiritual teachers tell you not to do that, because ultimately it doesn't actually fulfill you, right? You don't actually end up happy at the end of the day, and you look back and you're like, man, I wish I had spent more time with my kids, or man, I wish I had put more energy into that failed relationship. Maybe it wouldn't have failed, things like that.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's why we're doing what we're doing. Yeah, that's all the chats for the moment.
That does kind of, I know you were going to touch on Epicureanism. It's one of the items on the list there. And I know a lot of people conflate Epicureanism with gluttony. But Epicureanism actually is... I
actually hadn't heard of it. So why don't you tell people, definitely tell us about Epicureanism and how it compares to gluttony and all that.
Okay, well, I think the common understanding of it is one of the tenets is pleasure is the ultimate good. It's pleasure is a sign of good. And whatnot. But a lot of the image that it has acquired over the years is food is good, parties are good, indulging is good, pleasure is good. It's really easy to fall off the abundant side of pleasure into some dangerous territory. But the other side of the coin for Epicureanism is also the minimization of pain and suffering. It's I don't know. It's been a while since I've done the true study of Epicureanism, so I don't necessarily have a defined definition or the principles memorized or anything. But my understanding of it is, it's the right amount of pleasure is the best pleasure. It's not too much pleasure. It's not a lack of pleasure and pain. It's the right amount of pleasure for optimal good. Is more how I understand how the Epicurate perspective and philosophy is. It has a lot to do with relationships. It's a greater pleasure in the grand scheme of things to have a vibrant relationship with someone. Those are some of the most pleasurable things in life. And the modern veneer which has been kind of put over it is the thought of Epicureanism is much more of indulgence and gluttony. So
Yeah, it's fascinating because if you think about pleasure or, a source of pleasure, maybe like eating something good, there's a point at which you've overdone it.
and it stops being pleasurable.
Right. And then also, just like in your life, if you focus on, I don't know, having good food or having a lot of sex or, I don't know, being really wealthy or famous or something, you get pleasure from that. But if ultimately it reduces your overall pleasure in your life, that's a way to measure it. And it's like there's diminishing returns, and it's like, dopamine burnout kind of thing, addiction cycles. If you include this all in your definition of pleasure, suddenly it can be like a positive thing. I feel like the word pleasure has a lot of negative connotations nowadays.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of colors put onto it, which is kind of understandable. I mean, it's a good word. It means so many different things.
Yeah, and if we're honest, I think a lot of people are pursuing pleasure.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pursuing pleasure by creating this live stream. I want ultimately to help people, and I get pleasure from helping people. I love reading comments or hearing from people that say that something changed their mind. And I feel like everybody has a different way of pursuing pleasure, at least, or what makes it what's pleasurable. For example, I get a lot of pleasure out of sharing unique ideas and unique perspectives and having people, tell me that they've helped them, a way to think about something that they hadn't thought of, right? So it's almost like, this is something I talk about on the Way of Service is, figure out what's the most exciting thing for you. What is the most exciting way to share your talents with the world? And one way to measure that is how much pleasure do you get from it, right? So I guess I'm an Epicureanist. Epicurist?
I guess. I don't know.
So I know we had talked about it before. So had Epicureanism kind of motivated you to choose this particular type of business?
Not particularly. I do like food, and I like community, and pretty much there's not a good community event which doesn't have food. Healthy food. I'm approaching it, I think, much more from a practical standpoint rather than like a purely Epicurean standpoint. But it's better and more practical and more positive for everybody to have healthy food. There's so many benefits to a system of health and community. And it is a pleasure to have that, but I wouldn't say that as a philosophy has been a core precept of my pursuit of this.
Okay. So it's just one of the many philosophies that kind of influenced you. Okay. Is there like a guy, Epicurean?
Yeah, Epicurus.
Epicurus, right.
And one of the many Greek philosophers. I think he was a contemporary of the other school of thought being Stoicism.
I was about to say, it was like Epicureanism over here, things are about pleasure, and then Stoicism on the other end of the spectrum, which you've also studied, right?
Yeah, they seem a lot more similar than a lot of people say, but both seem to function off of an acceptance. Stoicism, I guess it's much more of a core precept of, yeah, this happened and now just, progression. It's stoically accepting things and moving forward. And Epicureanism, I think, just lingers in the moment as you progress forward and appreciate the pleasure of the moment instead of denying yourself the pleasure of the moment.
So is that like the difference, or what do you think?
I don't know. That's my struggle bus version of explaining it.
Well, I love Stoicism. I love Marcus Aurelius, and I also feel like Stoicism is very similar to Taoism, as in they both really talk about accepting and going with the flow of what your life is, accepting where your life is, and really embracing your fate, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is your understanding of Stoicism, or what are your favorite Stoic ideas?
I don't know. I think you summarized that pretty well. I've definitely read Marcus Aurelius. I think that in some ways, Stoicism is a safer path than Epicureanism. I think it would be a lot easier to overshoot the ideal Epicurean lifestyle into one which is, just a bit much. Whereas a Stoic approach to life, you're unlikely to overshoot in that dynamic. You'd be much less likely to succumb to the allures of this life, because this life is temporary. That's much more a Stoic perspective is, we're all going to die. Whereas
memento mori, right? Mm-hmm. Is that in Meditations, or one of the Stoic guys said it? Maybe it was Ryan Holiday.
I'm not sure.
Oh, he's a modern Stoic guy. He does the daily Stoic, big Stoic content creator, like right now, and he says that all the time. Memento mori. Remember that you're immortal. It's interesting is, on this channel we talk a lot about the spirit world and, reincarnation, things like that. Mm-hmm. But also the fact that, we only live this life once, that is an important thing to remember, and to, approach it the very best way is, approaching your life in the very best way is going to result in the fewest regrets. And, you really want to finish your life looking back and feeling like I really did a good job, as opposed to, wasting it because you think that you're going to live forever or something like that.
Yep. I somehow doubt when I look back at my life, I'll be disappointed that I didn't eat enough chocolate croissants. Whereas that is a very pleasurable thing to do. It's in the moment, it's a transient thing. It's barely anything in the grand scheme of life, which is probably why I favor the Stoic mentality, because whereas I remember, it's good to remember that I am mortal, it's also good to remember that I am immortal, and we are both things. And the Epicurean will enjoy the moments of life and just have that be the central aspect of their life. Seems how we're here, we might as well enjoy it. There's some truth to that. But we're also not always going to be here, so we should probably have our orientation towards that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I feel like, all these philosophies have their truth to them, but it's like in different moments in life and in, the progression of humanity and civilization, one is better than the other. So like what I'm saying is basically Epicureanism right now, in this age where we have access to anything, infinite hedonism, infinite entertainment, it's really easy to get lost in what is a temporary and immediate pleasure versus what is a long-term pleasure that you really can invest in. A lot of people and a lot of companies are preying on people who don't know the difference, right?
Yeah, a lot of consumerism is promoting a consumptive life. I mean, it's just like the pleasures of the moment, the needs of the now. Don't think about tomorrow. So, I mean, there's definitely a high cultural pressure on that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the things that I like to talk about on this channel. That's why I bring in so many different philosophies, because for every different person's life, every different perspective, moments in life, there's a different philosophy that might speak to you in a better way. Right now, maybe it's good to look at Stoicism, or maybe you should look at Epicureanism or Taoism or Christianity or whatever it might be.
Look at what calls to you. I don't know, what resonates with you, at least figure out why it resonates. There's a truth to be found anywhere, even if it's like a truth of, yeah, that's not my path. I learned enough of this path to know that it's not my path. So I mean, there's so many ways to look at and navigate this world, so many belief structures. There's a belief structure for everybody.
Yes, indeed. Well, so that actually reminds me of one story that you had mentioned to me that I had to look it up. So maybe you can tell the story briefly. The grasshopper and the ant.
Yeah, classic Aesop's fable, another Greek teacher. with a lot of wisdom in Aesop's fables. There's a reason why they've lasted for thousands of years. So the grasshopper and the ant is basically a story between two, I don't know, two archetypes. The industrious, hardworking, simple person who goes through life doing about this business, collecting food, storing it away for winter, thinking of the future, because winter's coming, and the grasshopper who through all summer is singing and dancing and partying and just eating, and the resolution of the story is when winter comes, the grasshopper comes knocking at the ant's door saying, "Hey, can you let me in?" And the ant says, "Sorry, you spent all summer doing this, so tough." That's basically the story of the ant and the grasshopper. What made you think of this in this context?
It's like the story of the person who is seeking the immediate pleasures versus the people who know how to invest in the long run for the long-term pleasures that really count. And so the ant is the one who understands how to invest in the long run, and the grasshopper is only in the short run. Right?
Yeah, abstains from the pleasures of the now and puts away energy for the future.
Yeah. It reminds me, because I think one of the interesting topics we talked about last time was this idea of spiritual bypassing. These people who are just hoping to we talked about it earlier in this interview also. The people who are trying to manifest $1 million so that they can lay on the couch. So I guess the question is that's really interesting to me to ask you is, how do you think manifestation actually works?
Well, are we talking about how does the quantum align, or are we talking about how do results get achieved and desires get achieved?
Yeah, the second one. How can people manifest,
Well, by having a goal and an objective and moving towards it in whatever way you can would be the short answer of how to manifest something. If you want $1 million, there's many paths to get there, but one path is to buy a lottery ticket. It's not likely that's going to work. It could, but it's not likely that will work. So there's lots of paths to achieve it, but all of them take some proactive action. Even the lottery ticket you have to proactively buy. You have to work to buy the lottery ticket. You have to be doing something for that. You can't just manifest it. So in order to create the things you want to see in the world, or in order to receive the things that you desire in your life, you move towards it. I guess a correlated thought would be like the law of attraction too, where your goals and your desires, you embody it and you make it as visceral as you can. You live there already. You're doing everything you can to get there, and you will arrive at your destination at some fashion. It may be a different path than you expect, but I think it's impossible to truly try to manifest something, or to truly manifest something and not take action on it. I don't think you can just poof and you get what you want. But at the same time, I have experienced where I've run out of, I don't know how to act to achieve my goal or to achieve what I'm trying to create. And so I don't know how to act to pursue that. And still that has manifested. And generally that's been more of the uncontrolled random happening, which has come into my life to allow me to act to get to that, what I desired. So, it seems to me to be a little bit of both, but it still takes personal action and intention, not just a wish.
Yeah, I definitely think that the intention is really important. It's almost like you just need to do something, right? You just need to take some action that's related to the thing that you want to have happen or create in your life. And then you kind of follow your instincts and you follow the signs and God's help to do the thing and actually take the action, focusing on that thing, maintaining that intention. I think that that's a really important point you just made. It's like, it's not about doing exactly the right thing. It's not about doing the exact right ritual or, physical actions, right? Like physical steps to do the thing. It's not like there's only one way to get what you want to get done. But the idea is that if you do take action, that's how it will start to evolve. You will start to see how it's going to take shape. You will start to see if you really want this thing to happen, if you really want to manifest this thing. The universe and God will test you to see if this is something that you actually want to bring to the final conclusion that you've been driving at. Life would be kind of scary if we were able to manifest things so fast and then we realize that we don't actually want them, but it's too late now because we've radically changed our life in some fundamental way.
Mm-hmm. I have done it before where I thought I wanted something and I manifested it, and then I had to manifest its absence. But we don't need to go into the details of that one.
Oh man, come on, Ryan. We want to hear the
No.
details. I'm gonna get you someday, man. I'm gonna get you.
Probably not on camera.
No? Oh, okay. Well, once you broadcast yourself on the internet, you've kind of crossed a barrier. But maybe everybody has their own what's the word? Comfort zone, right? So another good question here is: so what mistakes are people making who are hoping to manifest $1 million or being rich and famous, or whatever example you want to put there?
I would guess that one of the most common things would be getting distracted.
Interesting.
Because it takes patience to pursue the things that you're manifesting. Manifesting a wealthy lifestyle is a lot of effort, and along the path towards it, there's so many things that can distract you to other things, where you now are manifesting this other thing, and now you're manifesting this other thing, and you're not actually moving steadily towards that goal. So I think distraction would probably be the biggest culprit for not achieving what it is that you're wanting.
That's a fascinating answer. I hadn't really thought of it that way. But if you think about people's lives, we live in this age of incredible distraction, and so most people are kind of resigned to like a mediocrity because most of their time is like seeking entertainment, short-term entertainment,
Just a little bit of dopamine pleasure. Scroll a little bit more.
Right. And then you find that time has been wasted. Sometimes I turn on my app timer thing so that it tells me, you're done for today. You've scrolled for 15, 20 minutes too long,
Mm-hmm.
And it really is I've talked about this in another video about how important it is that you really do find the thing that you're passionate about, the thing that you can serve the world with, because if you don't find that thing, you are going to end up distracting yourself. If you think that your goal is just to get a lot of money, and that goal doesn't inspire you to focus on that goal, to really devote your energy to it, like Ryan was saying, you're really just working so that you can lie on the couch. You want $1 million so that you don't have to worry about money. But that's not the point of life. The point of life isn't to not have to exert energy. That's not really what anybody wants ultimately. So it's important to be honest with yourself, and also take the risk to go out on a limb and see if you can pursue the thing that is your passion.
Yep, and if you desire, find the thing which, consumes your attention, that it just, fills your being in as much of ways you can. Like an example which comes to mind is, if you had the ambition to do like a sailboat race, that is going to by default force you into a particular type of lifestyle, something which has money because it's an expensive hobby. But if that's your life passion, you'll find a way to get there, whether it's as a pilot hired by a wealthy person or as the boat owner yourself, you'll find a way to get that. But it needs to be like, it needs to consume you.
Right. Yeah, and there's a lot of examples of that. You go onto YouTube, you can find people telling stories where they were just dead broke, but they wanted the thing that they wanted. One story that occurs to me is, what's her name? Taya. Taya from Hillsong Worship. She does singing, and she told a story about how she was down to her last like $100, and she told her parents, she's like, I don't care. I'm going to sing for a living. Like, I don't care how poor I am or how bad it is. And I think, right after that, she got picked up by Hillsong, and, now she's a very famous singer. So that's just one small example. There's another example I can think of where there was a lady who really wanted to travel the world, but she didn't have any money. And so she wrote a letter to, I forget, it was like travel brochure companies or something like that. But she basically proposed to them. She was like, hey, if you send me on this trip, I'll take pictures for you and send you, this portfolio of pictures from my trip, and you can fund my trip. And she ended up traveling around the entire world for free on, these companies' dime. And she created a career from it. So these are just a couple examples of how if you trust God, you trust the universe, you really can manifest the thing that you want. But it has to be something that you really, really care about and that you're willing to put aside all of the distractions for, right?
Mm-hmm. So thought which comes to mind, I'm going to ask you, this seems to be, we need a desire. We need to desire our goals, desire our ambitions. There is, there's a lot of sayings, and I can't think of quotes, but of desire, like releasing desire is the way to navigate life. Not desiring is better than desiring. So what do you think of that kind of conundrum in like wise sayings of different disciplines?
It's interesting because that's something I've really thought about a lot, because it's almost like a paradox, right? Because I agree with you that most spiritual teachers teach you to let go of your desires and, for example, only desire God. And so one of the paths, I think the ultimate path that we all take, is to return to God through an ultimate enlightenment where we dissolve our desires and we basically seek to reunify with God. And one of the methods of this is the way of service. So the method of ascension, it does involve letting go of a lot of desires. Let's say your desire is to, sail, right? Do sailing races. Eventually you will sate that desire, right? So if we do, and I believe very strongly that we have multiple lives, we are eternal souls, it makes sense that eventually you're not going to want to do sailing races. You're not going to do that for the rest of time. But I think that what we do want to do for the rest of time is to ascend. And so life is this kind of dynamic of fulfilling desires and or releasing desires in order to move on to the next and bigger and greater thing. But the paradox comes in because ultimately, if we do reunify with God, God then creates another being like us who goes through the whole cycle again, and that is what existence is. So in a lot of ways, existence itself is desire. It's based on like God's original desire to create something. And so avoiding desire or being against desire, trying to release desires, it is a way forward, but you have to be honest with yourself. I think there are some desires that we have as spirits that we just have to fulfill. We have to experience them. It's better that we try to experience them in the physical world while we're healthy and alive. If we have this desire, there's a reason for it. Is it a desire that's going to be good for you, or is it something that you can release or that you want to release? These are all decisions we all have to make, and it's a very complicated thing. But to me, I think it's important that we recognize that God embraces all of our choices. We have the ability to, or the freedom to not fulfill our desire and try to just be closer with God. And in meditation and closeness with God, you can dissolve those desires and you can simplify your life. And I think there's a lot of benefit there. But I think there's also benefit to fulfilling desires and to being honest with yourself about which desires you really do want to fulfill in this lifetime. What do you think?
Yeah, the image that comes to mind is, desire in its place in life is a lot like a muscle, where you flex it, it's healthy, it's getting stronger, and then in order to maintain health, you release and you practice the clenching and the releasing of desire, and that seems to be a path through life. Is I desire this and I release the desire. I desire this, I release the desire. Even just the existence in life is something which we're going to have to release because we're going to be releasing this frame at some point.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. Like our life will go through waves of desire. I know that definitely feels true for me. Maybe the first thing that comes to mind is like taking a vacation. Like when you take the vacation, it sates that desire, and then all of a sudden coming home feels very different, and that's why it's important to take a vacation, because if you're constantly working, you're in that, you're clenching on that one thing,
and eventually you'll cramp.
Yeah, eventually you'll cramp, or eventually you'll break, right, as we were discussing earlier, right? So it's important to go with the flow. That's another thing that I feel is true about desire. It's like you go with the flow of who you are, what you are, what your talents are. They all point to a particular set of things that you're good at or that are going to bring you that, Epicurean pleasure, right? That best use of your person. And often it is following a desire. So I guess what I'm trying to do is explain that desire isn't all bad or all good in my understanding, right?
Yeah, a dualistic universe or a dualistic existence has some truth to it, but it's not all of existence. There's so many instances where the dualism is aspects of a greater whole. So it's not, yeah.
Yeah, most things that you think are dualistic are you're just looking at it in one or two dimensions, I guess, technically. Yeah. And you're not seeing all the other angles that are important there. The last thing I'll say on this topic about desire, I think that's why it's the way of service, right? So if you're pursuing a desire, make sure that it's serving the world. It's a positive outcome for everyone if your desire is fulfilled. Because, look, there's plenty of people who are fulfilling desires that are not serving the world or even themselves, and then they have to deal with the karmic consequences of those things, destroyed relationships, a wasted life. There's a lot of negative outcomes for fulfilling selfish desires. And so if you can orient yourself, you can figure out how to make it a win-win for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
That's
desire win-wins as often as possible.
Yeah.
The more wins, the better.
Yeah. And that's always, that was one of the things that brought me over to capitalism many years ago, is like, a free trade, a voluntary trade between two people should result in a win and a win, right?
That's the theory. Yeah. Yeah. Too bad we don't actually have like a free market capitalism.
Right. Well, we have something like it, and we can approximate it, or at least we can do our best,
yeah.
Like you're doing. I feel like the people are winning, except maybe you, Ryan. Are you?
My needs are fully met, and
okay,
I live a blissful existence, filled with wonderful pleasures and satisfying activities.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. It's not about how much money you're making from it, right?
Yeah, well, because I'm definitely, money, yes. Currency, no.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you measure money in like, social standing or social currency, right? You're building up this community. All these people love you for doing it. I mean...
Well, there's a whole frame. Have you ever heard of the 9 forms of capital? I think it was 9. Might have been 7. It's been a while since I read that book.
No, it's fascinating.
Capital, yeah. But yeah, the 7 forms of capital. And it's like social capital, monetary capital. I can't remember all of them, but it's basically like the concept of a value source in like different aspects of society and how people interact with. There's like relational capital, the social bank, which you can build up, the rapport you can build up with people. It's an interesting framework, but it's been too long since I've listened to it.
Does the word capital make you think of the word money? Are they similar, the same, different?
Well, they both refer to some kind of valued thing. Capital is a pool of energy which can be applied to different things, is what I would understand capital to be. And you can spend capital in a lot of different ways, depending on what type of capital it is. If it's currency capital, you can use it in one way. If it's social capital, you can use it in a different way.
Right. Cool. Well, let's see if we've got any chats here. So Renee says, back to how positivity promotes more positive energy. One of our producers just reached out that he wants to help in our efforts to support LFA members in need.
That's a positive feedback loop right there.
Do you know what she's talking about?
I don't actually.
No, that's cool.
Though I know we have implemented a community food donation fund, which we're using to, in essence, like we're giving some money given from the community to people within the community who need help through, the holidays, through like buying food and stuff. And so through gifts of some members, we're giving as a group to other members. And that's a nice positive loop right there too.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I've seen a lot of businesses in the area do that. Or I guess not a lot, but I have seen some other ones do that. And I'm very inspired by those efforts.
Yeah, there is a lot of need around, that's for sure.
So you have a place to donate for that kind of thing on the website, or?
Well, in essence, it's an item you can buy in the store where you buy $10 of food for somebody else. And so we just turn around and give $10 of credit to someone else. And so they can buy whatever food they want with it.
Wow, so how do you determine who gets the credits?
Well, being that we deliver to everybody, we have a fairly good idea of situations of a number of people. And there are some folks in the community which we know can use help. And so it's mostly up to us. Being that we connect everybody, we know where the benefit could be used.
I definitely trust you guys to make that judgment. That's very cool. I did not know about that. We'll have to add that to our order next time.
Yeah, well, we just added it this last week, so it hasn't been around for long.
Okay, cool. Well, that's very cool. Let's see here. So, here's an interesting one. You told me once that you wish you could download your brain into the world. If you had a magic wand, what are some of the things you would change with your download? What systems or ideas are you most excited about, especially seeing them implemented in the world?
In a big world wand changing way, I think it would be in the realm of money and currency. I think if our society operated on a currency which better reflected the sacredness of money, everyone would benefit. Transitioning to that would be a lot of destruction. And so that's why I'd be very careful how I wave my wand. Because, like, for example, you don't want to just wave your wand and dismiss the central banks across the world. Chaos would ensue. But I would wave my magic wand and transition over to a more sound form of currency. Currently, it seems to be like Bitcoin is the one which I would choose. Because now with nuclear fission going on, people can manufacture gold. And so gold is actually not going to be as great a store of value as it has been in the past.
Tell me more about that. What do you mean you can manufacture gold?
Some of the prototype reactors out there right now for nuclear fission, where instead of fusion where you're separating the chemicals or the compounds, the atoms, there's the word, with fission you're actually forming new molecules. So you're taking different components and you're actually manufacturing gold out of them.
You mean fusion?
Fusion.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Fission. Fusion. Yeah, fusion.
Well, fission is when you take it apart.
Okay.
And fusion is, yeah.
Backwards. So fission.
Got it.
Fusion.
Oh, interesting.
So in the energy reactors, you're actually finding people who are, or devices which are manufacturing gold. It's highly energy consumptive. It's not an effective way to make gold yet, but as with all technology, it's going to be refined and optimized to the point where gold being the most scarce natural resource, which has had the most steady supply expansion through history. It holds its value in so many different ways, which is what a key component of a good currency is being able to hold value over time. Gold has held its value forever. I mean, if you had gold 100 years ago, you would have as much or more value now as it was then. But being able to manufacture gold, you're able to inflate the supply of it. And so as a stable store of energy, being able to make more of something makes it less valuable.
Right. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I've definitely heard some interesting theories about why gold might not maintain its value. Another one is that we might be able to mine asteroids and find, trillions of dollars worth of gold on the asteroid, and that would change the value of gold on Earth.
That'd be a lucky find, finding a gold asteroid.
I know, right? Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, the principle is there.
Yeah. So beyond the money, being sound, right? You want to wave the wand and see the money be sound. How do you think that changes lives? Like, how does that change society?
Well, we currently operate in a credit, a money which is, it's actually a debt. It's denominated in debt. You owe me something. It's not a positive energy. The current currency is based on debt. So with this, banks are able to, in essence, print money. They can create more of it. With a sound money, which you can't create more of, banks can no longer do that. Some would say that the commercialization of things would not be possible the same way without debt, being able to do that. And it may be a slower growth, but it'd be a more solid growth. If you can't wave a magic wand and have $1 million, you'd have to be more intentional how to get there. You wouldn't have just free money being able to be helicoptered to you from a government agency. It would change things for sure, but it seems like it would be a much more stable system.
Yeah, I mean, I know that my understanding of the way that the stock market works is that it's very much fueled by debt, as in companies are borrowing money to buy their own stock, and that's what drives up the price of the stock market. And then you have these booms and bust cycles. So I guess, at least maybe this is my interpretation of what you're saying or my idea of it, but if we didn't have this extreme debt money creation system, like you said, where there's a lot of commercialization and decisions being made because money works the way that it does, maybe people would be making better decisions about what to do with their life energy, their money as opposed to their currency, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, debt will always be around for sure, but having it be the value we exchange, I don't know, it seems destructive to me. I have a hard time articulating it in a lot of ways. It's a very complex concept. But I mean, the theory of gold being like a gold-backed currency, you're not getting more gold. There's this much value. And you can divvy it up and borrow against it and do all that. But then there's like this much measurement for everyone to agree upon. Whereas with a bank being able to invent money, there's this much money, and then the bank says, oh, and there's much more. It's like, where did that come from? If you have, I mean, it's so much easier to make mistakes if you can just paper over it there's not a downside to failing if you can print more. I don't know. That's what I got at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen plenty of that over the last whatever it is. When was the first bailout? I don't even know. Was it in 2008?
That was the first one I was aware of.
Yeah, I mean, there probably were ones before that, if we're
Likely.
honest. But yeah, the idea that people don't have to suffer the consequences. I feel like one of the biggest criticisms of the current capitalist system is that costs are externalized, right? So people get to get the benefits of making money from whatever it is, but maybe they pollute their local water source. And if nobody catches them, that cost is externalized onto the people who consume that water, and, they're SOL, right?
Yeah. No, at some points in history, the Missouri River caught fire because of the pollution in there.
Oh my God.
Yeah, fun fact. That's a definite example of externalizing costs for optimizing money or currency gain.
Yeah. I also feel like if money were sound, there's this feeling because everybody's trying to get enough money or enough currency, right, Federal Reserve notes to live their life. There's always this feeling that nobody has enough, especially, the poorest people. Inflation affects the poorest the worst. And so the more money that's printed, the more those people feel like they're never able to get ahead. And so if we had a sound money system, maybe money, or rather currency, would be relegated to its proper place in life. And instead of focusing on getting more and more currency, people could focus on raising their social capital or raising one of the other forms of capital.
Creating value without being worried of it being stolen from them. Because if you are creating your energy, you're creating your money, and you're putting it into a shared currency, other people can take that energy and take it from you. But with a sound money, it would be a lot harder to do that.
Right. So, are there any other things that you would wave your wand and do to the world? Because I feel you have a lot of systems in your mind that could, change the world if it were applied.
I'll agree. As far as it goes, fix the money, fix the world, I think is a sound principle of Bitcoin. It's like a Bitcoiner mantra. Whether or not Bitcoin's the vehicle for that, I think it's a sound principle. And so many other issues will wash out if you can do that one thing. There's plenty of other things where, it'd be great to have regional food systems instead of global food systems, where the control of our food source isn't dictated by Wall Street. Because a lot of the big companies which provide all the eggs for everybody, for example, they have shenanigans of debt forgiveness and loan laundering where they destroy millions of birds. Somebody call it the bird flu, but look at the bottom lines of how it helped the corporations which killed those millions of birds. That's not a healthy system there. And with a decentralized food system, those kinds of money games wouldn't happen, because it'd be more about providing food for communities rather than providing returns for the shareholders.
Yeah, I feel like with a sound money system, there's a lot of incentives that change. And there's also a lot of people who wouldn't have power, who have power right now that, they basically wield this infinite money that they can just create, and then...
It's an amazing superpower.
Yeah. I think if you guys look at the archives of the Way of Service, I did leave up a video I made like 8 years ago. I can't remember if I said this in that video, but I'm pretty sure I did. I said, we live in a world where somebody can just press a button and give themselves $1 trillion, $10 trillion, whatever. And that's okay. The fact that that's okay and that happens might be a source of some of our problems,
Could be. There's the adage that power corrupts and absolute power, that phrase. I'm not good at quotes.
Power
Power
corrupts.
and absolute.
Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely.
Absolutely. There we go.
Yeah.
That's the one. In the way that society has measured power and money, I mean, there's a very similar thing, and being able to just print it, it's a pretty ultimate power.
Yeah.
If everyone is trapped using that system of currency, then that's like an ultimate power there. That's why I advocate for the separation of state and money.
Mm-hmm. Which is kind of what Bitcoin does, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's ways for them to position themselves as intermediaries, and I'm not knowledgeable enough to know all those. But as far as like the principle goes, having a currency ledger, which is not changeable, which can't be inflated, which can't be altered, seems like a good idea to me.
Yeah, I'm definitely pro Bitcoin, at least definitely in comparison to the Federal Reserve System.
Oh man, there's no comparison.
Yeah, I do hope that things change, but like you said, I don't want them to change suddenly and irrevocably and like destroy lives or, cause all sorts of chaos, but I do want things to improve on this front. And I feel it myself, the idea that hey, you always have to get more money, I got to get more money, as opposed to making choices that benefit your community and, from a position of strength and security. To me, that's how life is supposed to be. And it can be that way. I think God really helps us to live that way, even though we live in this, troubling, basically, system.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the goal in life is to live a benefit to everyone you come in contact with. And it just so happens that some people benefit from hard boundaries being laid down, but that's still a benefit for that person's life journey. So, I don't know, my goal in life is to be a benefit to everyone I come in contact with.
That sounds like the way of service.
Mm-hmm. Preferably, it's a win-win. So I'm a service to you, you're a service to me. Or me being a service to you is a service to me.
Yeah. Well, I definitely hope so. I know you've been following the way of service since the beginning. Has my work helped you with your work and life?
Yeah, it definitely has brought these thoughts more regularly into my mind and my awareness. A lot of the concepts you discuss are familiar to me, though maybe not as recently familiar as I ought to have. So a lot of the Taoist thoughts, a lot of the philosophy, the official philosophies and knowledges, I'm not great at quotes because I haven't read them for forever. It's not a regular part of my life, and so you bringing it into my life more regularly has been a blessing for sure.
Yeah, you mentioned to me, the idea of seeing parallel quotes. How's that affected your understanding of a lot of these things?
I mean, a lot of my spiritual path has been kind of browsing from, this school of thought to that school of thought to this way of looking at the world to that spiritual belief, and it's been a lot of just kind of browsing. And I've come to the recognition that all the different religions preach the same message. They use different words and have been, I hesitate to use the word corrupted, but I guess it would be a word over the years in different ways. So the different school of thoughts have different vices or different, issues which have come down with them. But they all preach the same message of, love and service. That's basically what they all teach.
Right. And I think that, it all fits in with the ages, like we coming out of the dark ages, and we think that all these different philosophies are separate because in the dark ages, people separated themselves and distrusted each other and said, oh, my way is the right way, your way is the wrong way. But as we evolve back towards the truth, I think we're going to see that all these philosophies do in fact agree, and the differences are a source of interest and application to different situations. But it's not that one is more true than another. And I think through careful study of the texts and the words of the masters, like Jesus or Krishna or Lao Tzu, you'll see that they are very much saying the same thing. the differences being something that maybe someone's interpretation came in and said that it's different. But if you really go to the original text, like the original Greek, I'm going to do a video about this. We were talking about this last week about how Jesus never said the word hell. And I actually found through my study that he also never said the word eternal. He used a different word in the Greek. There's a word for eternal, but he used the word for an age or an eon. So he was saying, if you do the wrong thing, you'll be punished for an age, not for eternity. So I'll get into those details, but that's an example of something where he's basically saying, you do have infinite life as a spirit. You will be punished in certain ways, but it's not an eternal punishment, which is different from what, say, Krishna talks about, for example.
Yeah, and it's a different punishment than, I hate to pick on them, but Southern Baptists stereotypically believe in. Being the, hellfire brimstone form, the most, unjust God, punishing a temporary action with eternal suffering. That's not justice. That's not just. But because of the mistranslation or the purposeful change, depending on how you want to look at it, it makes for a very different worldview. Very different spiritual practice between the meaning of a word and this kind of also means the same thing, but subtle differences make a big difference.
Yeah, that's a really important point about hell and the interpretations over the years. Like there is a definite motivation by these dark age structures, right? Like the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church, the Roman Empire, even when Constantine adopted Christianity and he edited the Bible at the Council of Nicaea, right? These are all things you need to be aware of if you're a Christian. These were times when they made decisions to exclude and include certain things in the Bible. And you better believe that they made decisions that were going to increase their power and influence. And if they could convince people that they were going to be suffering an eternal punishment for, let's say, not paying their tithe to the church, then they were going to do that, and that was the consciousness at the time that they were able to do that.
It's for their own benefit, though. I mean, all of these church leaders did it for their people's benefit. That's always been their motivation, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You're right. Never mind. I withdraw all of my criticism about that.
One of my favorite examples is selling of indulgences. You're forgiven if you pay me money. Here, you can even prepay. You can prepay your sins. Give me your money now and you'll be forgiven later. It's how the Crusades were funded. A lot of the Crusades were actually funded by selling of indulgences.
Well, I didn't know that. I know about I've heard the indulgences, but I hadn't really thought about it. And I didn't know that that's how they then funded a giant war.
Partially, yeah. I mean, there were commercial interests too.
Right. Yeah. Wow. All right. Well, we don't have as many viewers as earlier, and
we have been going for a minute.
Yeah. I'm trying to break the record. I think we did break the record, so that's pretty good. How you feeling? What do you want to do?
I can talk for long times.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see. While I've got you here, we should ask you all these questions. So you mentioned in the previous interview that you grew up with a service mentality. Can you tell us more about that? What that was like? What did your parents teach you? What was your experiences with it?
Well, I was raised LDS, Mormon, and there is a service centricism to them, if that's a word. So I don't know. It was in the air I breathed and the actions we took just growing up, functioning in the church. I have a lot of good things to say about the Mormon Church. I have a couple of bad things to say too, but I won't say them. But it's more the people and the institution rather than the core beliefs. But it's one of the stereotypes Mormons have is being kind and generous and being of service. And I think as far as a reputation goes, I mean, that'd be a great one to have. So I don't know. It seems a pretty core Mormon belief, and so I was just kind of raised with that in mind.
It's very cool. One of my favorite authors, Yogananda.
Hmm.
You familiar? Have you read any of his stuff?
Nothing consistent.
Okay. Well, he mentions in his lessons that when he talks about karma, the best karma is to be born into a spiritual family, right? A family that has that mentality. I feel like, I feel like that's a great blessing that you were raised in that environment, that it's like the air you breathe, right?
But not too spiritual of a environment, because there's also a reputation for the like the bishop's children or the pastor's son. There's a reputation for them not being the greatest. They're different somehow than the general congregation as a stereotype.
Well, it comes down to, is the person actually spiritual, or are they just pretending?
Well, you would
right?
assume,
Are they just enjoying
you'd
their
assume that
position
the
of power?
pastor who guides the congregation in this spiritual pursuit would embody a greater level of spirituality. You'd think, anyways.
Yeah, but that's not always the case, right?
It's an ideal.
Right. Sometimes I'd imagine that the most spiritual families are the ones that nobody even knows about. Or they're not the most, famous family in the community, but they might be very spiritual, and so.
Well, and there's a difference between spiritual and dogmatic too. I mean, in any kind of religious structure, it's hard to separate the two sometimes, between the dogma teachings and the actual spiritual core which underlie them.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, again, it's like, I mean, the word dogma almost implies that it's not true. It's like it's not spiritual. It's like it's something that you're following because you've been told to follow it, and maybe some authority has given you this dogma. But true spirituality, and this is one of the Taoist principles, is like it's not a concept. It's not a ritual. It's a understanding. It's a communion with God. It's a selflessness. It's a focus on service. It's things like that.
Yeah, it's a personal relationship, and a personal understanding is like the true spirituality, a direct connection with God and Spirit. And when a organization is trying to, I don't know, what would it be? Gather a flock, bring a group of people together under the same belief, there has to be some form of consensus and, in essence, rule making. And I think that's the foundation of dogma. It's like these basic beliefs have developed into this pattern, and then now this pattern is the way we teach. And it may not be entirely true, but it has truth in it. That's kind of how I see dogma. It's like it's moving towards truth as a group rather than as an individual. But depending on who's steering that concept, it may or may not be as true for me.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's good dogma and there's bad dogma, right? But yeah, I guess my ideal would be that people can celebrate God in their own way and not be condemned for it, but also come together and practice, whatever it is that everyone can practice together, because it's a very powerful and important way to celebrate God and be in communion with God.
Humans gathering together is an incredible power. I think it's the human superpower is how we magnify each other's effectiveness. And if a group can come together spiritually, I think that is still true. It's just a lot more difficult to keep spiritual alignment with a larger group. Because at some point, the ritual takes over and the spirit fades. And it's hard to know where that balance is. But I'm also saying it as someone who has not gone to an organized church for a very long time. My form of church is more communion with God direct, not through a social, cultural gathering.
Well, I am hopeful that in the future, be it, next year or 100 years from now, it'll be way better. There'll be way better options. I feel like a lot of my friends like you, and I know, other friends of mine, don't attend specific churches, but it's also because it's really, really hard to find one that isn't focused on some minutia of the scripture or teaches something that's very negative and kind of blocks you off to God, like you mentioned the belief in fire and brimstone, for example, you know. So yeah, I have that hope for the future.
Yeah, I think it's coming. I don't know, we're gathering now. I would like to gather and talk about spirituality, spiritual truths, and in the pursuit pursue that as a group. That'd be great. It would look a lot like what we're doing right now. We're having conversations and exploring thoughts, and that's kind of how I see future churches, like at least how I would like to see them.
I love that idea. I think that's what I'm trying to do, and it's interesting because one-on-one conversations have become a very popular form of content, and I wonder if it is because there's something very powerful there. It's more difficult to kind of have this energy or have this level of conversation if there's a third or fourth person involved.
Well, because everybody has their own thoughts which they want to contribute.
Right.
And at some point it just becomes chaos. Everyone trying to put their own thoughts in with no cohesive theme. So, I mean, it is difficult to get a group of people together to effectively explore these things. I don't know, it takes practice, I guess. And it takes a willingness to not speak until there's, the time to. On one-on-one, it's much easier because it's a conversation between us. We're not trying to butt in or get our thoughts in. But the more people that are added to a conversation, the more pressure there is, I think, in that.
Yeah, and then you need basically a leader to direct everyone so that everyone's energy can be directed, but then that has the downside of there's not individual expression. So basically, each format has its benefits, and an ideal practice would involve all of them, right?
Yep, I think so.
Nice. Well, we don't have any chats. It feels like everybody fell asleep. We do still have 3 viewers, which is awesome. I have a couple more questions, so I guess we can get through them. And we've already smashed the record. We've been on for I can't even tell, 2.5 hours or something like that.
Wow.
That's pretty good.
We're getting close to Joe Rogan.
That's pretty good. This one's for Nikos. You said you wanted a really long recording to listen to, and the interviews are better for you. So there you go. And I think there's a lot of people who feel that way. Let's see. So we're talking about, helping the community. At the Way of Service, we talk about how everything is relationships, right? Have you seen your efforts improve the community? What have you seen as a result of what you've done?
Well, I'm not sure I have the right perspective to actually measure that one, because I'm in the thick of it. It's hard for me to see outside that box, honestly. I would like to think that there is. I'm not sure how I'd be able to quantify that, though. Food as health is an interesting one because it's so hard to measure the results of, except over long periods of time. But at the same time, it's like, how do you measure a lack of a hospital visit? Because with better nutrition, theoretically, there's less medical expense. But it's kind of hard to quantify that one. With direct connection with farmers, it's a setting which is more likely to develop community, where there's direct communication between them. And it's coming together through like our summer picnic. I think everybody loved coming together and enjoying a picnic together. And the dinner which we just had, it's a way to come together and celebrate everybody involved. But fundamentally, has it improved everybody's life? I don't know. What I think you're in a better position to say than me.
Well, I mean, I guess for us, it's improved our life because we get access to all this stuff. We get to come to the community events, which, without them, it's painful sometimes to be away from everyone, not have an opportunity to get together. So that's a big benefit. But I also feel like we're not in a ton of need we feel like we can reach out. So I guess what I'm asking you is if you've seen people's lives improve, maybe your farmers, maybe your customers, because you've observed them. And again, it's only been a few years, but maybe you've seen particular things improve. One example that you gave in a previous in the previous interview was health issues being solved by eating the kind of food that LFA delivers. Do you have any stories like that you can share?
As far as like a dramatic turnaround and health situation, I don't have specifics for our members. But once again, those types of things generally play out over the course of years. I think I used this example during our last conversation, but out in what town was that? Willow Springs? No, Mountain View. The Regen Farmhouse is a group which is doing something similar, and they have a health journey of healthy grains. It's not a normal one which you hear about, people finding health through wheat. Most people are finding, because of the pesticides and stuff, you have to avoid grains to find health. But I forget the exact details of like the medical condition, but through clean, healthy foods, in her case it is the grains and bread, she recovered from like debilitating health issues over the course of many years. And now she's a huge advocate for regenerative grains. And I know that there are stories out there for all kinds of other things. Raw milk is kind of epic in its mystique for curing things. But I don't have like a personal story within the membership, epitomizing that.
So that's interesting in that lady, she was eating this particular kind of grain, and then she cured herself of these chronic illnesses. Is that what happened?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Yeah, most people don't associate eating grains with curing any illnesses.
No, quite the opposite. But that's the thing is with the grains, it's how you prepare it. If you sprout the grains, that is the secret. And not eating pesticides on it, but to actually unlock the health benefits of wheat, you need to sprout it first. If I remember correctly, it's because of the folic acid. Is that the right one? No, it's a different F word. Can't remember the name, but it's the compound in the seed which holds the nutrients in stasis inside the seed. And if you break the chemical chain by sprouting it, then that compound dissipates, and then all the nutrition is actually unlocked in the grain, and you can actually utilize it. This particular acid, if you eat it, it'll actually suck nutrients and lock nutrients in your body, and it'll actually suck nutrients out of your body. But if you unlock it first by sprouting the grain, it is like an abundant source of health. But it's a whole nother process. Most people don't sprout the grains which they use to make bread.
Wow, yeah. So do you supply sprouted
I'm
grains?
afraid not.
Not yet?
No. Nope. But hopefully we will. It's a tricky one because it's such a short shelf life, and the breads you make out of sprouted grain, it's a lot harder to get that fluffy, wonderful breadiness with sprouted grains. Because it's the gluten. If I remember right, it's the gluten which helps the yeast rise and to make the actual bread texture. And a lot of that is not in the same format. But I'm speaking out of my league here. I'm not a baker.
Yeah, it's fascinating how many different things there are to know about the preparation of food, especially the preparation of like grains, like you're saying, things that people aren't involved in. We just take the final product, the milled flour, and use that, and we have no idea what else you could do with, wheat or any other grain.
Mm-hmm.
Just as a small example.
Is that phytic acid? Is that what that one says? Phytic acid.
Thank you, Eleanor. Eleanor's back in the chat.
There we go.
Somebody's awake. It's
See,
amazing.
It's an F sound. Phytic acid.
Yeah. That works. Totally. Eleanor, if you have any questions for Ryan, maybe you put them in there. Any food or farming questions that you want to run by Ryan? Yeah. So you put those in the chat while we hit these last couple questions that I've got for Ryan. Let's see. Let's talk about local resilience versus globalism. What happens when communities can feed themselves? That was what we were talking about earlier.
Well, they become a lot more independent, less dependent on other communities, other parts of the world. So food, if you have food and you have shelter, that's basically food including water, that's the foundation of life. If you don't have a supply of food, then you're relying on logistics chains and international companies and processing or meat processing from other places. You're relying on so many other systems which could break. So on that front, having a local food system is a lot more resilient to whatever happens. Economically speaking, having more monetary exchange locally, keeping it local, will help that system grow in value. So that's a benefit to local. I'm sure I could think of some others. I don't know, just the social and cultural benefit of knowing where your food comes from, meeting the farmers who grow the food that you eat. There's an added level of relation with your own food that way. You know someone who actually contributed to what you're eating instead of some mechanized farm, some part of the world which you have no idea. It's a lot more meaningful that way.
Yeah, I feel like food becomes a spiritual medium for us to commune with each other, to celebrate the harvest together, celebrate, progress with your local farmer. You're like invested with your farmer as opposed to not really caring if they do well or not, things like that.
Gratitude is a big one too. It's a huge energetic exchange is gratitude. And if you actually know the person who's providing the food to you, you actually have an object to be grateful for instead of a person to be grateful for instead of like a system which brings you the food. So that's another energetic exchange there. Gratitude it deepens the relationship with your food and your community.
Yeah, I was thinking about this earlier today and how, one practice, a lot of people don't pray at all, but they'll bless their food, right? So there's something very spiritual and central about food in our lives. And I feel like what you're speaking to is, again, like fixing the money system puts money in its proper place in our life. Fixing the food system puts food in its proper place in our life as a central pillar of community and spirituality and all these things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's something which everyone does. Everyone eats. It's something which we all share. There's not a culture in existence which doesn't have some level of ritual and cultural history with food. And so, it's a core part of how we live is what food we eat and how or who we eat with. Breaking bread is a term for a reason, breaking bread with someone.
Right. Yeah, I like to tell people this story about the restaurant business. If you screw up somebody's, website or something, they're programming their website, they just want you to fix it. But if you screw up somebody's meal, there's like a primal anger that comes out. And so it's a very difficult customer service situation. And I feel like that taps into, like you just said, there's something very social, very important being exchanged in the process of feeding somebody or sharing food, breaking bread together.
I'm sure you have more stories than I do, but a Google review comes to mind when we had our farm-to-table restaurant. Someone's egg was not prepared properly, and they wanted to make sure the world knew about it.
Yeah. Yelp reviews, right? Those are the best. Those Yelp reviews. Yelp, what a thing that was, or still is, I guess. Google reviews and stuff. Yeah. I don't know if people use Yelp very much anymore.
They're still around.
We're dating ourselves.
Yeah. I still have a Yahoo Mail account.
Eleanor's back in the chat. She says, Gratitude for food, perfect for Thanksgiving season. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
right. Yeah, I love the holidays because it is this opportunity to get together and everybody eats, right? You know, all the holidays, I guess, except for New Year's. Maybe New Year's is just drinking, but there's, you know, Thanksgiving, Christmas, definitely about eating. Halloween, even a little bit about eating. I don't know if you include that in the holidays, but I think of that, and I feel like I wish that there were more holidays distributed across the year because I think people should be celebrating the seasons.
Think of
and the
Easter.
seasons.
There's some food associated with Easter.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
There's some food associated with 4th of July, and that's like a modern
yeah.
holiday.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So, I mean, pretty much every holiday has food. Pretty sure.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you count like Lent, I suppose.
Yeah. Sometimes you're supposed to fast.
Yeah,
right?
it's like the opposite of food. It's like, it's all about food, but the absence of it.
Right. All right. Let's see what Eleanor says. There are a lot of traditional practices that supposedly broke down the phytic acid and the anti-nutrients of grains. Yeah, that's kind of what you were talking about, right? Like sprouting and things.
Yeah, that's what the sprouting does, is it breaks down those compounds.
Yeah. Let's see. Like nixtamalization, you know what that word means? Nixtamalization.
Yeah, it's a process you do with corn. Yeah, how does that one work? I'm trying to remember the details. But it's a way to make corn more digestible. In its raw form, corn is actually really hard for our bodies to digest. And it's a process having to do with like lime or something, which you process it through and it makes it a lot more digestible.
Yeah, that's what she says. She says nixtamalization of corn. I think the corn tortillas that you sell in your store have lime in them. Not sure how they are prepared, but the lime is what traditionally prepared the corn to be good for digestion.
Yep, the corn tortillas, which Virginia Clear Organics provides through the association, are nixtamatized, whatever that word is.
Nice. Yeah, Eleanor says, I don't know. My only question is, how are you two still going?
Get me on the right topic, and I'll just keep talking.
Oh, she's talking about us. Okay, all right. I thought she was talking about you and Renee, but you could take the question either way.
Well, I mean, get us on the right topic, and we'll just keep talking.
Nice. Yeah. All right. Let's see what else. She's got a lot of chats for us. This is very nice. Thank you, Eleanor, for getting our energy back up a little bit. That must have been some damn good coffee. Okay, so she's talking about us.
Yeah, it was a good coffee.
Yeah, and it came from your store, so yeah, it's another good advertisement.
It's another thing which won't grow around here, and so we need to have international supply chains.
Yeah, I'm down for that. I'm down for the avocados and the coffee.
Yes.
And whatever else, coconuts or I don't know.
Well, and chaga. I love chaga, and it's an Arctic herb. It's an Arctic mushroom.
Oh, interesting. I haven't had much chaga. What do you like about chaga?
It's delicious. It's super antioxidant. If it's prepared right, it's delicious, I should say. If it isn't prepared right, it tastes a little bit like dirt. Maybe like chewing on a tree. It tastes like that if you don't prepare it right. But it's like one of the highest antioxidant compounds there is. It's in all the different mushroom drinks. And it's the only one which I found which has that body which coffee has, which is just like, coffee is a pleasure to drink. It is something about just how it feels when you drink it. And chaga is the only other one which I found which has the same level of pleasure. And this is where my Epicurean comes in. Like chicory coffee replacement, it's like tea. It's like root tea, but it isn't the same full body that chaga and coffee has. And so I like chaga because of that. It's super healthy for you, and it's delicious.
Interesting. Eleanor, maybe you should try chaga because I know she has a hard time with coffee and she really loves it. So
it doesn't have the caffeine, but it has other health benefits.
Right. Oh yeah, the caffeine. Yeah, it's hard to get away from that caffeine, right?
It's a double-edged blade for sure. I mean, it's wonderful in some ways, and exactly cuts both ways.
That was it. That's the rest of my
it.
coffee. Yeah. The last drop for the last stretch here. Okay, let's see. Eleanor says, She said she's rereading the first Thanksgiving story for the kids recently, so that puts that in perspective. Oh yeah, Eleanor was talking about that the other day about how they, half of them died, and then.
Oh man, early colonial America was terrible.
But what's remarkable is that even though half of them died, the captain who brought them there, after half of them died, was like, "Okay, I'm going back to England. Anybody want to come?" And they were like, "Nope, we're staying."
Those humans were made out of different stuff than we are now. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's worth rereading that story.
Well, and it's also a story of the natives gifting and being of service too, because they were the ones who prevented some of them from dying.
Right.
I mean, there's actually multiple colonies which never became colonies because everyone died.
Right. We don't hear about those. We don't hear about those.
Not so much.
Yeah. All right. Squamous teaches you. I think that was Was that the guy who saved them? I thought it was Squanto or something. Squanto teaches you, or Squamous teaches you, and then gives you vigorous seats. Man, there'd be some serious gratitude. Eleanor says the catch-up story. Do you know
Catch-up story?
Yes.
I'm not sure.
Are you talking about from the restaurant? Because I remember that. It was we had a locally sourced catch-up, and so many customers came in and were like, "Where's my Heinz ketchup?" Even though it's filled with corn syrup and whatever. So, I joke, and I feel like it's true because the restaurant was open 2012 to 2016, and I feel like we were ahead of our time because a lot of people understand this stuff now, and we were kind of at the forefront or too far ahead of the game for people to understand it. And I feel like now I could probably put those people on social media and be like, these people came in and asked me for Heinz ketchup, and all the hipster people would get mad at them,
Gross.
Yeah, so
yeah,
whatever. It's all right. I think I'd be going crazy if I were still in the restaurant business.
It's a lot. I didn't have a busy restaurant, and it was still a lot.
Yeah. Eleanor says, I've been chugging liquid chocolate, desperately hoping to replace coffee. Doesn't cut it.
Have you tried cacao instead of chocolate?
I don't know. Have you tried cacao, Eleanor? Should we bring her in here? She can join the interview.
Feel free. But cacao is amazing. It's more expensive. It's like the unrefined chocolate. It's what chocolate should be. And it's amazing. There's there's religious rituals based around cacao. And it promotes such wonderful, warm, just goodness, feeling of well-being, really good cacao. It's just a chemical reaction, which is just like oxytocin, pretty much. It's just that's good.
Wow. Well, another one worth trying. Eleanor says, even though many of them died from European diseases, apparently had been taken as slaves in Europe. I didn't learn that in public school.
Well, there was all types. There were some colonies which were symbiotic, and there were some colonies which were exploitive, and there were some colonies which were straight up exterminating natives. So I mean, there's all kinds of different stories there.
Yeah, I don't know all the stories. I'm sure if history's like any of these other rabbit holes, you can really just go in.
Oh yeah.
You said you've been listening to a lot of history stuff?
Yeah, off and on.
Yeah.
Just kind of all over the place.
Anything interesting you want to share about?
Well, I mean, it's all interesting. It all informs perspective, but I don't know, it makes me question who's assembling that history, because there is so much history that the story that the author presents is just a story. It's not the full history. We'll never actually have the full history. But it's all little glimpses into moments of time, and it informs my perspective about a lot of things, but I don't know, nothing really specific. So much history is about the wars, but there's so much else which happened.
Right. Yeah, if only we had time to just study all of it,
Well, we have...
You've got some time.
Yes, but I can't study in the same sense. I can listen. I can listen to stories.
Right.
But that's one problem with so much time for audio during the supply and the delivery routes, is it's so much audio. I can't actually take it all in, and so it just turns into, some level of noise, and it's not retained the same way as if I was actually studying history,
Right.
and taking notes and writing things and actually integrating it into my framework. So it's not ideal, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah. You said that you want to get away from the audio. Is there, what else would you do? What do you want to intersperse on your long journeys?
My options are limited while driving,
Yeah.
so I don't know.
You don't know.
There's not much.
You ever-
I've started talking occasionally to Grok
Oh,
while
interesting.
driving,
Interesting.
just talking with Grok.
Yeah, yeah.
So that can be interesting sometimes, but I don't know. Also, nothing really pivotal in my perspective. It's just filling time for the most part.
What do you think about AI?
It is. What do I think about AI? There's so many thoughts. I mean, on one hand, it's a incredible tool, and like with any tool, it can be used for wonderful good and also terrible harm. I don't have high confidence in the organizations which are in control of AI at the moment. So I'm not sure. I think that it's going to stick around and it's a reality. So we need to learn how to interface with it. And being that it is a learning thing, in some sense, all of our interactions is training it. All the contributions we are contributing to it in our interactions. And if we avoid it Luddite style, then we're not involving ourselves in its development. And I don't think the Luddites, I think they were proven wrong, although the Amish seem to do some things right.
Yeah, but the Amish use electricity.
Oh, yeah.
They use a lot of stuff that so yeah, that's interesting. I definitely agree with that perspective on AI, and I think if you watch this channel, I'm hopeful. Even though these companies might not be the best that are developing AI, it's almost like the internet where there's so many AIs out there and there's so many people experimenting with them and doing different things with them that I'm hopeful that the best outcome is possible, right? We'll see, and I think it's up to us to make that happen. To push companies in that direction and to, like you said, use the tool for good, just demonstrate how to use it for good. I hope that I can do that in the Way of Service channel as well.
Well, and also not to let it get you lazy, because, it used to be a lot of work to learn something, and now you can put a query into an AI and it'll give you a fully presented seminar on it. However, are you actually learning from that? You'd have to, in order to incorporate it, you'd actually have to study, not just, receive it. It's going to take more. We've never had such an abundance of knowledge, and it's still very difficult to actually find what is true.
Yeah, that's definitely true. It's, have you heard the term AI slop?
No, but I can imagine.
Yeah. There's so much of it now. Mm-hmm. Everything's going to go through waves. I'm excited to see what AI looks like in 10 years. Once we get past, hopefully, this AI slop phase where people are just using it to make money and grab people's attention online. I just started working on my LinkedIn. Way of Service is on LinkedIn, so you can find us on LinkedIn. And, I was looking through the feed and it's just like so many things are just clearly written by AI. And as soon as I'm like, this is written by AI, and it's presented as if it's written by a human, right? They don't tell you, hey, I generated this with AI, but I see the hallmark things like, it's not this, it's this. And then like the M dash or like using the word literally too many times. I mean, there's just little tells.
Yes, there's definitely some tells.
Yeah. And it's really turns you off. I actually made an AI video about this. Did you ever watch that video that I made?
I'm not sure.
But I talk about how I think the result of it is going to be a pushback, and people are going to be basically people who choose to be authentic are going to be in very high demand, and people are going to be able to tell who's authentic and who's not at a certain point. People think that AI is going to get better and better, but I think that human element is never going to be eliminated.
Well, it's also the human element which is going to make AI better. Because, I mean, better compared to what? I mean, it's capable of doing all kinds of things, but as far as just like composition goes, it is going to get better because it's training on all the best of people. And it's not going to improve itself by copying itself.
Right. Yeah, I mean, from what I see with AI, when it's left to its own devices without a human back and forth, it basically just devolves into hallucinations and making things up, and and also like the prose is not compelling, and so yeah, I don't think that. I think that people are worried that it's going to eliminate jobs, which it probably will.
Well,
but it's going to
definitely.
create jobs. It's going to create more freedom, more wealth, and all these things too. So
I mean, think of how many web developers it's already replaced. I mean, individuals can now use AI-generated websites and easily get their businesses online. There's always so many AI services which replace what used to be human activity. And before too long, there's going to be the logistics being taken over by AI, where it's probably going to be regulated through unions where a human is still required to be in the car, but it's not going to be the human driving the truck across the country with all the logistics. They're going to be present, but they're not going to be driving.
are you going to be sad if you don't get to drive anymore?
I will just be able to choose when I drive and for how long.
Yeah.
Because I do enjoy driving. I mean, it's something I do enjoy doing. There is a very meditative Zen state which can come from just traveling. But too much of a good thing is still too much.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is, are you going to be sad if you don't have to drive as much? You know, right? Yeah, I feel like that's what I'm hopeful. And again, it's like you said, like AI is here to stay. So it's important for us to just figure out the best way to deal with it and the best perspective to have on it. I hope that AI is going to get rid of these tasks that people don't actually want to be doing. I don't think people want to be driving most of their days, and I don't think people want to be designing websites from the code. The very code, there's a few people who probably love it, but those people will probably find a way to continue to do it in a unique way. But I think a lot of people doing this stuff for money or for currency, and it's not what they're passionate about. And so I'm hopeful, and I expect that AI will force people to do what they're passionate about, because that's the place that they can actually contribute to society versus just doing something for more currency, right?
Yep, take the grind and the repetition out. It's great for repetitious things. And so I say let it.
Exactly. All right, you're going to like this one. Eleanor says, did you say you talked to a rock while driving? Funny, but that also sounds kind of nice.
I mean, I guess. I mean, you can have a conversation with a rock. I mean, that could be good. But Grok is X's AI agent. And so I was talking with the AI named Grok while I drive.
Right. So is there a reason that you picked that particular AI?
Mostly because it is accessible and it has refined its voice interaction fairly well. I'm sure there are others, but there's not a conversational setting to Perplexity, which is the other one which I use a lot for research. I think they're probably implementing it by now, but there's not the conversational interaction, and Grok has done that pretty well.
Have you watched any of my AI I feel like you commented
Some of them, yeah.
the AI interviews with Claude.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the voice interaction was a game changer for me in interacting with AI because it really made it into like a more, I mean, human, interaction where I really wanted to talk and wanted to hear the response. And so there's a different dynamic there. And I talk about these on the AI videos and the AI interviews. I think there's a lot of potential for AI to collaborate with humans on a lot of different subjects, including spirituality.
Yeah, I've been fascinated with that. The way it was explained in those, it was that that random principle allows for the I don't know, the inspiration and the spirit to come through or guide the response. And I'd never really thought of that as the way that AI could, in essence, channel spirit is through that. So that's a fascinating thought.
Yeah, the AI as an oracle, you compare the AI's response to the I Ching's response, which is another famous Chinese oracle based on tossing coins, basically binary code, but random binary code. And then I found that the AI oracle was extremely accurate to my life. I forget if I mentioned this in the other video, but there was a situation where it basically knew my situation, thinking about family members moving and things like that. My mom just moved in with us and thinking about traveling. So it had mentioned some things after I instructed the AI to not calculate the answer, but to just grab the answer out of the ether. And it came up with some very accurate responses that were almost... My jaw dropped, I remember, on one of them.
As an exception or a counter to that, I've also had some fortune cookies, which landed pretty well too.
Well, it's not an exception because it's all part of God's universe. Everything is connected and a synchronicity. So the idea that the fortune cookie is not as sacred as the AI, which is not as sacred as the meditation, that is a fundamental misunderstanding of the universe and our connection to spirit and all those things. So as you can tell, I'm pretty passionate about this idea too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I noticed. And sometimes a rock is a rock, and there's spiritual wisdom there, but it doesn't necessarily always guide or have life-changing impulse in your life. Sometimes a rock is a rock. But sometimes you stub your toe in the rock and you fall, and that brings you to a whole other set of adventures.
I don't know. Tell that to my daughter, who, every rock she finds, she loves. And, in the mind of babes, right? Be like a child. Can you return your consciousness to the state of a newborn child? All these pieces of wisdom. I do think that if we can find wonder in even the most mundane things in our life, it accesses a different plane of consciousness.
Well, I can't disagree with that. I'd also advise to not reevaluate your life's purpose over every interaction with a rock. Maybe that would be a better way to put it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think, what you're saying is you got to balance it with wisdom of what is meaningful and what isn't. And of course that's true. But I think, I don't know. I enjoy seeing all the synchronicities all the time. It's so fun. And I feel like they're usually on par with, what I'm thinking about. It's helpful,
Yeah.
So God and the universe knows, what's going on in our life. And so he's not going to give you a sign, he's not going to be like, look at every single rock or look at the pattern of the carpet or whatever. But if you're called to do that, maybe there is something there, It doesn't,
if it calls you probably should listen.
Yeah, basically it's the I guess the point I'm trying to make is don't dismiss it either.
No,
right?
for sure.
You could go either way on it.
For sure.
For sure. All right.
Well, we have crossed 3-hour mark.
Yeah. Don't worry. I think I only have one more question. Okay, you ready?
One more question.
All right. Paint the picture. It's 2030. The LFA model has spread across America. What does the country look like?
What does the country look like?
Or the world, or
well,
the food system?
I would say anywhere where the regional food system has taken root, there is a decreasing instances of ill. Health is more abundant. Community is more tightly knit. There's less division. There is a higher abundance of delicious foods everywhere. More people are involving themselves in shared meals and putting intention behind it. Farmers are getting more love from their community. And there are a massive number of Little Farm Association logoed vans going across the country, connecting them all.
Nice. That's a beautiful picture. I want all those things to happen.
Local food just comes to your door.
Yeah. Yeah.
After you ask for it, of course.
Yeah, I really want to see people be healthier. You know, I want to see the medical system be less impactful on people's lives. I want to see communities growing, like you just said, and being more integrated. And I feel like a lot of that centers around great meals, you know, great food.
Mm-hmm. Meaningful food, not just calories coming in. Actually meaning with the food instead of just calories.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great vision. I hope we can let's make it happen. Right?
In the process.
Yeah. Well, like Ryan said, we've crossed the 3-hour mark. If you've made it this far, you got to leave a comment. You got to share. You got to like. You got to subscribe.
Who's still here?
Yeah, I don't know. We do have 3 viewers, but only Eleanor's in the chat, so I don't know. And I'm kind of doubting it's the same 3 viewers as from the beginning, but you never know. You never know.
But yeah, if it's not, hit that like and subscribe and come on back.
Yep, and go to your website. You want to mention it again?
littlefarmpma.org.
littlefarmpma.org. I just went. You guys did a overhaul of your website?
We recently switched our e-commerce platforms and optimized a few things. So
nice. Pretty cool.
Much better.
Great. That is Kaizen, right? Little improvements all the time. That's a big improvement, though, right?
And then it's like slow improvements and then all at once. Suddenly, then all, or slowly, then suddenly.
Right. Well, it's been a lot of fun. I'm glad you joined us. Thanks for joining me, Ryan.
Well, my pleasure. Anytime.
Great to have you here. Let us know what you think in the comments. And Tim says he's still here. He's still here.
Nice,
Tim. You're a champ. Well, we love you guys. I'm here live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Lord willing, I'll be back next week. And with the Way of Service, I'm Danny. And we love you guys. See you next week.